podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Because you've got powerful legs. How'd you get the physique? Was it gym or how'd you get the physique?
I've always been...
She's actually not got powerful legs. Do you shower in your dressing room? Do you have a shower on the day of a fight or not? Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, you little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
That's your knowing mind.
Move him out of here, there.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing nutters messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump. You know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 553rd edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings and joining us on the call we have Matty DiGelinardo and Andy Patterson going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The ad-free Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everyone listening through the week on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Sports Social. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice throughout the entire month of December. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. There were some 5-star performances over the weekend. We'll be talking a little bit of David Morrell, Magic Morrell, as I referred to him over the weekend. The end of Showtime, 37 years, the end of an era. They have closed the door on that particular television station. The PBC will be going elsewhere. We'll talk about that later on. The Day of Reckoning is next weekend as well in Saudi Arabia. There'll be comments, questions, value of the weeks. Feel free to throw in your thoughts, if I can say that, in the chat. We'll shout out to the chat a little bit later on. Only one place to start, though, Matty DiGelinardo. Saturday, the 16th of December, the Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale, Arizona. I bet it's goddamn hot in that place. It was certainly hot in the ring anyway. Sonny Edwards getting stopped. Retirement in the 9th round against Jesse Bam Rodriguez. 20-0 going in to the ring was Sonny. 18-0 Jesse Rodriguez. IBF title on the line. WBO flyweight title on the line as well. It was a really good fight. I enjoyed it. Let me ask you this, Matty. What is it with us UK people and our weak UK facial features? We've got Kell Brook, we've got Daniel Dubois, we've got Billy Joe Saunders. Now we've got Edwards, all suffering from the busted orbital bone. The curse of the dodgy eye strikes again.
That UK eye resistance, basically.
I personally blame the NHS.
Well, you can't blame them in Arizona, can you?
It's everything beforehand. I think it's like prenatal care. You guys are just a fragile bunch from birth.
Not drinking our milk, maybe.
It's a socialized medicine or something. I don't know. Actually, what it comes down to, and I feel like a broken record these last few weeks, Steve, but recently there's this trend, and it's stemming back from obviously, I think the best example for going back was Mick Conlan against Lee Wood. Going in, thinking he's the puncher, getting sparked out a couple more times in his career too. Recently, we've been seeing that more too. Sonny Edwards, his only chance to really win this fight, when you break it down, because obviously it was that huge power deficit. If there's anything where he might have had an advantage, it was going to be maybe a little bit in foot speed and footwork, but I didn't think it was a remarkable gap. And he didn't even really choose to employ that. He decided to stand and trade with Bam. And by the second round, his eye was already starting to swell up. And to be fair to Sonny, he landed a few good shots in there, and I'm not entirely unsure that he didn't shake Bam up a time or two in that fight. So fair play to him. But he just kept getting hit with these shots. Rodriguez working the jab really well. I think really the unsung hero of that fight was the right hand to the body. I thought that set up so much of what he was doing and helped to control Edwards' move it and eventually forced him to start shifting into Rodriguez's left hand. And that's what ultimately ended the fight after what was, I thought, a very good 9 rounds. Not fight of the year, but it was one of the better fights of the year. Absolutely. Where both guys gave their best. It just so happens that the totality of Bam Rodriguez is just more than Sonny Edwards, especially when he fights the wrong kind of fight, given his skill set and talents.
Speak about that then, Matty, before going to Andy. You left us with a little teaser at the end there. You feel that he fought the wrong fight?
Yeah, absolutely. He should have used that a little bit of advantage in the feat that I addressed earlier. If anything, he should have been utilized in the ring, trying to box a little bit more, and keep Rodriguez off balance. The idea to stand and trade with him so often throughout the fight, just a very, very bad idea on his part. But I had a hunch about it. That's why I got almost 5-1 odds, Steve, on the fight to not go the distance, which was just a little less than you would have gotten on Rodriguez by KO. So save, a little headbutt value there. You never know what could happen. So it was, just the wrong fight at the wrong time for Sonny. And he's a good fighter, fantastic boxer. Says he might be able to go down to 108. There's some interesting fights to be made down there. But I think the real sad story at the end of this, Bam, obviously that's a great thing for him, onwards and upwards. But, I think the real story of this is that we are never going to actually see the romance between Sonny Edwards and Clarissa Shield take off. It was nipped in the bud before it even got a chance to start, Steve. And I think we're all worse off because of it.
And I don't think he's going to end up with Franchon either after her win over the weekend. She's not going to be looking at him with her being a winner and him being a loser.
Yeah, well, and you got to remember she's already married and her husband is a super bantamweight, so that'd be another time when Edwards would be the smaller man in the ring.
In every sense you would imagine. Let's dip into the chat, the Sherbet dip here. Lithgow 1983 says he's not buying Vision Gate. He said it's just a posh name for a black eye. Okay, fair enough. Michael Thompson says Sonny having war on his trunks is pretty ironic. G Poker says Bam was beating him to the jab, stopped Edwards in his tracks. I think that is a good observation. Cedric Sniff says, nice coincidence that Showtime Boxing and Showtime Sonny Edwards are finished on the same night. There you go. That's a good one from Cedric Smith there. Harvey Price Boxing Returns says, how can a 27-year-old be so small? Did his mom have him on a diet of smack and crack as an infant? Okay, fair enough on that one. Lithgow says at least Sonny has escaped from the former Goat. Escaping is part of his game, usually, Andy. Not much escaping once Bam started to cut off the ring. I wondered how Sonny would approach this contest. He stood in the pocket. He fought for respect. Bam did something a lot of Edwards' previous opponents, the likes of your Alvarados, your Wazims, Campos, were unable to do, and that is match his foot speed. He started closing off his escape angle, started landing the jab, throwing shots to the body. That and the punching power were the major differences for me. If you can't keep somebody off you with your punches or gain that respect, like Edwards, he just couldn't do it. He was landing good shots, but he could not stop Bam coming forward. That is half the battle in boxing, isn't it? Giving the guy something to think about, and he just couldn't do it.
Yeah, firstly, like you say, obviously, he's hung in there as well. It was a bad cut as well over the top of the right eye when I seen it after the fight. I was surprised how he fought. I was expecting him obviously to kind of circle the ring, use it a lot, but he looks so kind of frail at actually trying to make the weight. You just wonder if he knew himself. Look, I've not got much in the legs, so to speak. He probably had ambitions to win. He stood in the pocket, he stood in punching range, and after that, I think that shootout round about I think it was the 6th round. I think it was. Rodriguez was really landing some heavy weather to the body, and I think that was a kind of telling point after that, because you could then see the deterioration on Sonny Edwards really kind of starting to kind of pick up a wee bit, especially as you're dragging right into the 9th round. The eye was swelling up, I think right at the end of the 8th. That bruising came up pretty quick. And obviously you've got that massive shot that he took at the end of the 9th. It's really almost face planted him really Whatever's been said in the corner, he's leaning into the ear of his trainer, and he's turned around and just basically waved the fight off. Clearly, he's saying he's seen double, probably the orbital bone's broken. But what can you say? Rodriguez, as mentioned on this podcast, is the future of the lower weight divisions. I mean, if you look at it at the minute, the trajectory that he's taking, some of the names, some of the defences, all he needs really is to really get the baton turned over by beating and fighting, even over a couple of fights with the likes of Estrada and Gonzalez would be ideal. The kid is special.
And the way he beats them as well, Andy, not just the
Yeah.
fact that he beats them. He's stopping Sorong Vazai, even though he was inactive. I thought that was a statement previously.
It really was, and obviously then in fighting Quadras, who'd obviously been, I think over that quartet of fights, Estrada, Gonzalez, Rungvisai and Quadras, I think it was about 7 times they fought each other, like basically 7 fights. You've then got him coming in there. There's a new blood then coming down in weight as well. You wonder how much that really takes out of him. I like to see him kind of settle at 115. I still think there's a few fights for him there to be had as well. And obviously, I think his natural base in a couple of years' time, if he keeps going, is going to be bantamweight. No one to tempt fate, but I really think they kind of like, as I say, the trajectory that he's taken is kind of something similar to kind of Salvador Sanchez levels in terms of like activity, defending titles, beating probably the kind of nearest challengers. Edwards doesn't really get a lot of credit from the Americans. I understand why he kind of like maybe went balls to the wall a little bit, because he ain't going to win a decision. I think in America you got to really be so defensively sound, and your counter shots are going to be so rapid and so good, and just catching that eye in the American judges, because they really, in my opinion, have always kind of like based it on aggression. And Sonny just hasn't got that punch when he really needs to turn the fight, and he landed some good shots. You could hear the third in that as well, but he just was not getting the reaction on it. Could be part of the weight. He's also had hand problems in the past and that as well. He gave it his best as what he could, and I think, in my opinion at least, he knows himself how much he could take. And Rodriguez is going to take some beating, to be fair. I expected it to be a bit more difficult, to be fair, off Rodriguez's last fight, because obviously I think the way the opponent fought in terms of the defensive movement, he was having problems, but he was lankier or taller than Sonny Edwards, to be fair, in that as well. Maybe he wasn't cutting as much weight. Maybe that's why he had a bit of issues. The guy had more stamina, but can't he knock it? It was a good fight. As I says, down the stretch, that's how you end the fight as a champion. You step in there and you end the fight. And as I says, the shot for the knockdown in the end of the ninth was fantastic.
Yep, certainly was. Rob Kelly's with us. Before we go to Rob, Matty, you brought this up on the screen here. Why was Edwards complaining so much about jabs to the belt line in the first round? My view on that was he was complaining so early in the fight, and then his trainer, his corner man, Grant Smith, complained at the end of the first round as well. I imagine this was some kind of tactic they brought into the fight with them. They probably watched previous Rodriguez fights, noticed he goes a bit low at times, and they were complaining from the off. I don't think it was just something they thought up on the night.
Well, and that might be the case, but I thought those punches were right on the belt line and perfect as far as placement goes. And to me, it seemed like he was like looking for some sort of an advantage from the get-go. And it's not the right mentality. And what's not a low blow, kind of seeking it out. I don't know. It wasn't a good vibe to get out of the first round. And I'm glad that Twill picked up on that as well. I saw that as well. Or TW2, however, what's going on there. I don't know how these names work, Steve.
That's okay. We can just abuse people. We don't mind, Matty, on this Sunday evening. Episode 553. Rapping Rob Kelly is with us. You are very welcome, Rob. There was a comment here floating about I was going to ask you. Can't find it, so I'll keep it short and simple here from Yimmy Yappy. He says, is Bam a roadman killer?
Chatting about it, I thought Sonny had the potential to outbox him. Can you hear me or no?
Yeah, we can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah? Hi, sorry. Just driving here. So I was looking at it last week. I thought Sonny might have a chance of outboxing him. And then I was looking at Bam for the KO. And then the closer it got, like during the week, I thought Sonny was doing a bit too much with the weigh-ins. And I don't know, it seemed a little bit like false bravado a little bit. Not that I'm a fucking amateur psychologist or whatever, but I picked Bam yesterday late for the KO late rounds. But I thought Edwards did exceptionally well in the fight. he's just up against a better fighter, like a guy that's just better. As Andy was alluding to, like, he can't crack eggs with a hammer, so he wasn't gonna. I think Rodriguez realized dead early, I can walk to this guy, like, and Rodriguez's footwork surprised me, which it shouldn't really, considering the opponents he's beaten, but the way he was able to get in range to let off the shot that ultimately finished it in the 9th was fucking tremendous. Like, and I think he was brilliant off the jab all night, and he's going up and down the weights, so he's the best little man in the world at the moment, like, isn't he? So yeah, no, I don't think Edwards disgraced himself by quitting. Like, he did quit, didn't he? Like, as he said, third to the quarter, said, "Fuck that, I'm not going back out." Like, and I don't give a shit about that. Like, fellas, I think when it comes to orbital bones, that's the line for quitting, isn't it? Like, quit. If you have a cut and all, don't quit. Like, but yeah, if you're gonna go blind, maybe fucking, like, because fighters went blind in the past, didn't they? Like, and what did they get for it? They got a fucking story in a magazine somewhere about they were the fighter that fucking went blind and then they went broke and died. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I'd rather have me 2 eyes, but he did do a lot of mouthing about fighters who've quit before with similar injuries, so he's gonna have to fucking take that one, isn't he? Like, but he was first out to say Bam beat his ass, like, and he did well in the fight. Like, he is an elite level boxer. Like, he can't punch. He got 4 knockouts or something. He can't punch, but his boxing ability, like, for a guy that can't punch to get to that level in that kind of division, says a lot about how good he is. But Rodriguez just better, like.
Yeah, I think whenever you bail on an injury as well, Rob, there's different situations, different scenarios. In this case, Edwards has got a bit of credit in the bank, hadn't he? The fact he'd gone toe-to-toe, he'd had the 6th round, he'd stood there and tried to bomb with him. He hadn't just bailed out after 2 or 3 rounds or whatever. As you said, he sort of got a bit of credit in the bank.
Yeah, like, he came to... He lost in an... I'm not so how you say lost in an admirable way, but he gave fucking account of himself. He hung in there, like, and he was there on merit. Like, it wasn't like... I think he was right. It was the 1 or 2 guys in the world. Like, he was there on merit, and they served up a terrific fight. So if the fight ends like that way with a fella's orbital bone broken, I have no fucking problems with it. Like, I'm not fucking going to work with a fucking broken orbital bone. Better to believe that, let alone fucking go and take punches on it. Like, so...
Absolutely, Matty. Let's slide onto the undercard then and have a look at what happened there. If I can remind myself, actually, let me just bring it up here. Oh yeah, MJ Akhmadaliev getting a 8th round knockout win over Kevin Gonzalez. Yeah, I think as soon as Akhmadaliev started hitting him to the body, then all of a sudden things changed pretty quickly. The first couple of rounds, Gonzalez was doing okay for himself, but it was just all about levels. I thought the referee was quite brave, the corner man was quite brave, and Gonzalez himself were quite brave in the end.
Yeah, I thought that it was pretty interesting because, Akhmadaliev, 3rd, 4th rounds, 5th, I think maybe it was the 6th when Gonzalez got knocked down for the first time. But it was kind of weird because I thought that Gonzalez might have been kind of figured something out and been coming on just a little bit because Akhmadaliev started to increase his holding. And then he landed that uppercut and he was like, oh, I'll just hit him when he's close. And that was basically the end of that. And he just ramped it up and was able to stalk Gonzalez and land some great shots. If he had fought that way against Tapales, we'd be talking about Inoue versus Tapales here in a couple of weeks. Actually, I'll get you. Never mind. I'll get you in the chat there. So it's I just he looked far better, and I think that he really wished that he had, maybe it was in the gym or whatever. I think that he wished he had turned it up this way against Tapales because a totally different outcome. He'd be looking at a different fight here. Let's see here. What else was on that undercard right below that? Steve, help me out.
We had Yafai got a win over Rocco Santamora.
That
was decent.
That was a good fight. And I think again, Yafai is a guy. Again, another guy who I don't think is as much of a puncher as he fancies himself as. And I believe it's going to get him into trouble sooner rather than later. It seemed like he would have had Santamaro out of there, but he stood in and Santamaro landed a few good shots. I guess he just didn't have the pop to pull it off there, but you could definitely see Yafai getting caught trading hooks in there at certain times. And I think he might be a knockout waiting to happen. There. So that one, but that was a decently entertaining fight. At least it was thought to be much more one-sided than that. The odds were quite wide. And then let's see, below that was,
well, talking of one-sided, Peter McGrail against Jericho O'Quinn, which is quite the name, was pretty one-sided until it wasn't.
Well, what a freaking interesting fight that one was, because McGrail was just looking sharp. He was catching O'Quinn with all sorts of shots. And again, another guy. I'm not sure he's the puncher he thinks he is. And he was just looking for the knockout there after he had put down O'Quinn a few times, and they traded in the corner, and McGrail landed a left hand, but then O'Quinn just came right across with a right hand and lights out against the ropes. I mean, in a night of some fun knockouts, some KO of the year candidates, this is right up there. What a great shot by O'Quinn, knocking out the previously undefeated McGrail. I don't know if there'll be a rematch maybe coming up next or something, but I think McGrail needs to stick to his boxing because trading shots ended very badly for him.
It certainly did. Just before we go to Des, who's jumped on the call, very welcome this Sunday evening. Andy, sticking with the McGrail theme against O'Quinn, I mean, it was a punch from the gods, wasn't it? Oof. He felt he hadn't got anything to offer him. He stood off, the right hand came over, and all of a sudden it was lights out.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, he was in dominant form. Hand speed was glorious. Dropped him twice, although I think the first knockdown was probably where he's shifted his body weight and he's kind of caught the guy kind of like off balance or his feet square. But the guy just went up against the ropes, just threw a downward right hand and it's caught him just right over the top of his own left hand lead. Just thing is that he's instantly out. He's instantly out and he's like down sleeping. It was a bad knockout. Yeah, Scouse Lomachenko shouldn't be taking shots like that, mate.
Scouse Lomachenko got iced. Anything else on the undercard you saw, Andy? I know you didn't get to catch that medallion.
Yeah, I only seen the bits of MJ. To be fair, there's only one MJ, and it's not that guy. To be honest with you, Joe McGrail. He looked okay. Although I don't know what to make much about the opponent. To be fair, in that, but he punched holes. Was it Ortiz Jr.? That's his name. I did catch that.
I know who's the favorite son in that family.
Oh, exactly.
Nowadays,
McGrail.
So that's all I kind of caught me. I was only really interested in the kind of two main events last night, but I did catch kind of most of the Showtime card. The Morrell Colbert, which was good fun as well.
Yeah, it was. We'll be talking about that very shortly. Before we do so, Des has jumped on the call. Des, Sonny Edwards didn't quite manage to get the job done. What did you make of his performance last night in Arizona?
How you doing, guys? Can you hear me okay, Steve?
We can indeed, yes.
We spoke about this in the chat, a lot of us, and there was an awful lot of concern for Sonny Edwards because he was showing a lot of nervous energy on the Thursday night in the presser. He looked like he'd crashed the weight off, and he was asking for the scales to be brought on stage, and I'll get on the scales, I can make the weight today. Well, if he's making weight 32 hours before the weigh-in, that's probably the wrong time to make the weight. And it was interesting because Bam, he did go for the body in the first 2 or 3 rounds. He was stabbing the jab to the body. He was bringing the hook up. I always thought Sonny could come undone last night. I thought you're going to have to be a very, very good counter puncher, be very crisp to get a decision out there against a big punching, come forward fighter like Bam. I didn't think Bam would stop him, but I thought Bam would beat him. And I thought Sonny was very brave, but I thought Bam was very good.
And Des, given what Bam's done already, moving up and down the weights, showing his skill set, he's not for this weight anymore, obviously 112, what he's likely to grow into and what he's going to achieve over his career, do you think this loss will probably age well for Sonny Edwards?
So I think Sonny is a world-class fighter down at flyweight. But there's even, as we all know, there's levels at world-class, isn't there? And I think Bam is edging towards probably, he might have slipped into the pound-for-pound top 10, top 15. I think Bam's slipping into that elite bracket at that weight class. And I think Sonny's worked out that there's levels to this. So I'm not saying Sonny can't rebuild, but I think he's going to have to really work on that style against the more attacking, bigger punches of the division.
Yeah, it's something he's going to have to adapt. No regrets leaving Frank, going over to Eddie, getting this unification. Obviously, you can always take different pathways in life and in your career, but no regrets from as far as you're concerned. He had to chase this kind of fight to kind of take him to that next level, potentially.
Absolutely. He chased greatness. He fought a really good kid. I think Bam will go down really well over the last 5 years and the next 5 years. I think Bam Rodriguez is going to be remembered very well by boxing fans. I don't think it will hurt Sonny in terms of his record, but he has got to rebuild, and they do have to make a few tweaks.
Des, we mentioned the undercard there briefly. Obviously, McGrail getting iced. Yafai, a little bit hittable, but I thought it was exciting. Good opponent for him in only his 6th outing. Did you manage to catch much of the undercard on DAZN at all?
I watched the two McGrails and I watched Yafai. I like Yafai. I like his family. I think they've done brilliant things for British boxing, particularly in the amateurs. I think Yafai will pick up an awful lot of experience from what his brothers have picked up before him. But I think Yafai, I think Matty touched on it. He's probably not levelled off. I'm not saying that, but I think he's found a level now where he's got to work a bit harder and not think of himself as a puncher. I think that was a really good bit of matchmaking for him yesterday. And if he can have 3 or 4 more of them, I think Yafai can grow into the fighter he can be.
And as for McGrail, just the road back from that knockout. I mean, I did not see O'Quinn uncorking that one. McGrail maybe got a little bit overconfident. Rather than trying to stop him, I think he just left the chin hanging out for a split second too long in the end.
All day I've been trying to make a parallel with that fight. I can't quite think of such a one-sided fight to go on the turn. And it just keeps bringing me back to Errol Graham, Julian Jackson. It was almost a carbon copy of that because McGrail was in complete control. All he had to do was stay on his feet. Yeah, O'Quinn just pulled one out of the bag, didn't he?
Yeah, the one that came to my mind, although Julian Jackson, the way he unleashed the shot was more Julian Jackson. But I was thinking back to, this is the niche one on BBC, Carl Thompson against Sebastian Rothman. I think it was back in 2001. He was taking a shellacking, wasn't he? We knew Thompson had that in his locker, and he came out with a hell of a right hand to just instantly turn it around.
Yeah, and what's interesting about all them 3 comparisons, Thompson was always in that fight going in, and Julian Jackson was always favoured going in. They're 2 great fighters, but O'Quinn wasn't fancied, and McGrail was doing exactly what he was meant to do. This might be the biggest upset turnaround fight I've ever seen.
Yeah, no, I agree with you exactly. Thompson had form for that. They were both sort of fringe world level guys. They were all on a level, both punchers. It wasn't as expected as this. Like you said, O'Quinn looked out of his depth. Prospect was beating him up. He'd been beaten before. We all saw the script going in one direction, and then bang, for an out of a blue shot. You're right. I can't think of another one.
No, not such an unfancied fighter. So far behind on the card, and the rhythm of the fight. You wouldn't have put any chance of him doing that. So yeah, the only one I can think of.
Iron Barkley versus Hearns in the first one. I can't remember, was Iron Barkley in that fight up to the point where you turned it around though? I don't know. I feel like Hearns was beating him up and then he got, well, could be wrong. So long ago since I saw it.
Did no fight twice?
Definitely fought twice, yeah. Barkley won the second one as well, didn't he?
But what wasn't Iron Barkley a freeweight world champion, a freeweight middleweight champion, or a freeweight of a free time? Iron Barkley had form, didn't he? You know.
Yeah. You're right.
Ivan the Blade Barkley, absolutely. He was. They showed that on the Showtime telecast last night, which we'll go to shortly. Des, feel free to stick with us for as long as you wish. Rob's here as well. So is Matty and Andy, me, Steve, episode 553. We'll go into the chat in a minute and have a look who's hanging around. Before we do so, Andy, you mentioned a show to me just before we go on to Morrell, just off air. Was it Rafferty against Appleyard? You were dipping into the Commonwealth circuit, I think, at the weekend?
Yeah, it was just there was slim pickings last night. I wasn't even going to try and find the illegal stream to sit and watch Josh Kelly, man. That just wasn't happening.
Didn't watch it either.
Did you know? So I just had to kind of like flip through the subscriptions on YouTube and that I got, and obviously Pat Barrett had a show on at Manchester last night. I had it on in the background, but I seen like Jack Rafferty just come out and blasted out Lee Appleyard. Pretty heavy knockout, to be fair, in the first round for the Commonwealth title. At I think it was at 140. I think it was vacant belt. Lewis Wood against John Edwardson for the vacant Central Area title was actually a fun scrap as well, to be fair. Back and forward battle. So just your typical fare at your Central, area level fights that Aussie would mention, but it was generally better, I would imagine, what was put on the DAZN undercard as well. So nothing else really to kind of report on, mate. Just the fact is that Rafferty was a heavy knockout, to be fair. So hopefully Appleyard's okay.
Yep, hopefully he's okay on this Sunday. Mark Stanton's okay. He said, when did Wasserman start putting shows on DAZN? Between DAZN and Channel 5, Callie seems to have his fingers in the till there. He's enjoying himself. I don't know why they're putting on some of these shows, to be honest. But that's why we're sitting here on a Sunday evening for episode 553, and the TV producers are doing their job. Matty, let's go over to the Armory, Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's a historical, significant fight, really, this. Not necessarily for the super middleweight division, but for the fact that Showtime is no longer with us. It has now passed on David Morrell. He's very much in action, just sliding in under the 168-pound limit with a second-round knockout win over Saina Agbeko. We were saying this off-air, actually. He was supposed to fight Agbeko in April. There was some adverse findings on the brain scan, some kind of issue, which is something you don't want going into a Morrell fight, because if you ain't got issues on the brain, he'll certainly add them to you as quick as he can. He absolutely
if there wasn't any then, there is now.
Battered this guy. Agbeko said he would do better than Yamaguchi Falcao, who'd replaced him in April. He was right, Matty. Falcao only lasted 1 round. Agbeko, who looked like F.A. Ajagba's younger brother, managed to last 2. He landed a couple of shots here and there, but boy, was this one-way traffic. Morrell, it's fair to say, Matty, isn't your classic Cuban. He's a real come-forward puncher.
No, there's definitely something different about this guy, and you got to remember that this is only his 10th professional fight, and although he is a Cuban with a Cuban amateur background, his amateur background is only somewhere around like 50 fights, give or take, so he's not one of those hundreds upon hundreds of fights guys. He is just incredibly gifted, incredibly athletic. He can find gaps that most other fighters are not going to find in his opponent's defense. And what he was able to do against Agbeko against the ropes to finish it off, it was just absolutely brutal. This guy is something else, and I would not count him out against anybody in the 168-pound division, including David Benavidez. And there's a few good fights to make in there. I think he'd play well against Canelo, obviously, too. So I, sincerely looking forward to where Morrell's career goes from here, because he just could be something pretty special. And he's not one of these old Cubans that comes over, too. He's only about 25 years old. So we might be seeing this guy for a while, Steve.
Yep, he's 25 years old. He came over from Santa Clara. His mom and dad are over here as well. He seems to be loving life. Not quite sure why he's ended up in Minnesota, but I suppose at the end of the day, you have to end up somewhere. MB says he's a bad man. Michael Thompson, Andy
big fan of the Golden Girls, I heard.
Aren't we all?
He's doing all of this just so one day he can have a lanai. He just wants to spend time with his friends on the lanai.
Oh, dear me. Michael Thompson says if Benavidez can't get the Canelo fight, then him versus Morrell would be brilliant, Andy. I'm going to butcher the pronunciation as usual, but Samson Lukovic, he was fighting him and B-Hop on a video during the week. He said that Benavidez against Morrell had been made earlier in the year. We're expecting to see that one. He's made it clear, Morrell. He never mentions Canelo. He only mentions Benavidez. Again, in the post-fight telecast, his English is getting a lot better. He said to Jim Gray, I just want Benavidez. He's the one that I want. And I want that too. Can you imagine those two clashing in the middle of the ring? I think it'd be an absolute war.
Yeah, it'd be great, mate. But to be fair, I think Benavidez is going to hang on, isn't he? The payday's there. Morrell is that high-risk, low-reward that he's... Again, I get it. Politics, money, at the end of the day. He's just looking after his own investment. Just on the B-Hop situation, I watched that three or four times. It was absolutely hilarious. Uncle Elvis is absolutely, seen the light of day. Hopkins was ready to rumble. Oh, it was glorious stuff. But Baz just spitting in the guy's face and that, unbelievable. He's lucky he never got properly to fill in there, actually. But yeah, Morrell, I mean, obviously it was a poor opponent, goes without saying at the end of the day, but how he gets the top 10 ranking, I don't know. Morrell made it clear at the outset that the guy was not in his league. Basically called it a mismatch. That's what it was. Took it to trash pretty early. Didn't play with anything. That's what you want. So onwards to the next one. But Benavidez, if no, I think we said it just before we came on air. Actually, I'd like to see them in the Christian and Billy fight. I think that'd be an absolute war as well. But when I'd probably see Morrell probably get on top of probably the midway part of the fight. I think he'll land something heavy on them Billy, who I don't know if any of you can recall to see him if he's maybe been hurt or dropped. I kind of think any fights that he's been dropped in, to be fair.
No, I don't think so.
And just looking through that, I've just pulled up the rankings. I'm just trying to see any other potential opponents. There's nothing really there, to be fair.
Thing is about Morrell, he doesn't play with his food, Rob, as we were saying. He goes out, he smashes people up. In his first fight, his debut, knocked a guy out in a round. Second fight, knocked the guy out in 2 rounds. Third fight, they put him in with Lennox Allen, not Lennox Lewis. Went 12 rounds. He'd only had 3 rounds in the ring up until that point. They're not afraid to push him on. Great crowd. They love what he does. He's defensively open. People have made criticisms of him, said, oh, his gas tank's not all that. I just love watching him fight. I think he's a really exciting fighter.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. Like, when you're fighting, don't clown him or bully him or kind of like, showboat against him or fucking carry them. Go out and fucking blast them out and get people interested. Like, get another knockout on the reel. Like, that's what you want. And like Matty said, he's really, really good at finding openings. He might be the Cuban that delivers. I don't want to give him the fucking put the Cubano hex on this guy. But, you know what I mean?
Another one.
You know what I mean? But he's making me feel good. But definitely want to watch. Imagine him and Benavidez. I mean, if Benavidez, I would favor Benavidez over Canelo at this point. I think that's fair enough. I don't think Canelo at this stage has much for Benavidez or bigger guys. I just think by the time the fight gets made, Benavidez will have his moment. But if that was the defense, holy shit, could you imagine that? Violence.
Just thinking, though.
High level violence.
Just to be honest, I mean, really, go to see Morrell get tested a wee bit. I mean, I know the Yersball and Inoue fight was pretty brutal on that, but we got to see if he's got the Cuban mentality once it starts getting a bit heavy weather for him. Does he pull it? I don't know.
Yeah, well, let's see it. I mean, we'll find out if fucking against Benavidez what he's made of. Like, that'll be a good. And like, he's like these guys that fucking just take care of business. Like, fucking go and knock people out. That's what it's about. Like, entertain. So yeah, he's good. He's definitely good.
You just wonder, Steve, as well, with this Amazon deal, if Big Al can maybe get a wee bit more shekels out of Amazon Prime to then make these fights, and maybe just say to Benavidez, look, listen, you get the Canelo fight, however, get an additional 5-10 million here for you from Amazon if you want to take the Morrell fight. You'd be nuts to fucking rule that one out, wouldn't you?
It's all going to come down to his excellency, guys. He's getting involved.
Yeah.
He's getting involved in Tank Davis and fucking Haney and all that now. Like, these, you know what
Assalamu alaikum.
All praises to his excellency. Let's see it.
I wouldn't be shocked if you see Morrell against Plant. Caleb Plant needs to try to show he still matters.
Oh, Jesus.
Caleb Plant against who? Morrell?
Yeah, I think that's what they'll do next as well, actually.
I don't know, like, I'm a Rob on that one, I don't think.
Or Durrell, they'll dig up the ghost of Anthony Durrell or something like that. But yeah.
Or Andre Durrell.
After Abraham next for Morrell.
Well, you mentioned, Andy, there about the Yerbos and Inoue fight. I have seen sort of criticism, only vague criticism, about Morrell's gas tanks, not all that, because he sort of laboured through the middle of the Yerbos and Inoue fight. But I mean, he was literally laying a beating on a guy who refused to go anywhere until he ended up getting hurt that badly. He ended up in an induced coma. I mean, you can't really hold that against Morrell.
No, I know. This is the thing. He does seem to be that, that guy who likes to hurt people, and he can obviously he's a big hitter, but again, you just some of the opponents, you just want to see him. I always want to see him tested now, actually, because you could throw him into Benavidez fight and he could fold within 2 rounds. So again, if you want to take the fight, good on him. He's only that was his 9th fight, 10th fight, was it?
10th, those lines.
Yeah, make a wee bit of noise, but he's if he can get the Benavidez fight, I mean, if he does, I mean, the thing is, if he knocks him out or anything like that, then we're talking. But again, if he's calling him out, it's now into Benavidez's court, really, and it's down to Big Al now to get the money made for that fight if it's possible, and Benavidez wants it. At the end of the day, if a fighter wants a fight, he's going to take the fight. So really, if Morrell's calling him out, it's down to Benavidez now to respond, surely.
Mm-hmm. Yep, 10-0, 9 knockouts, only 42 rounds fought. MB says Morrell versus Melakuziev, please. That would be interesting. Cross-promotional, though, always more difficult to do. 168 is stat right now. Need to make some of these fights, and Billy would be a good one, as Andy mentioned as well there. I know we spoke about this before, Matty, before we go on to the undercard. The new breed of Cubans. We've seen the Laras, the Salises, and all these boys running around the ring. We saw Yoenis Tellez icing someone on Friday night with an absolute picture-perfect left hook. Andy Cruz didn't play with his food against Straffon. Got rid of him in a couple of rounds, and now we've got Morrell continuing to batter people. These new aggressive Cubans, man, they're scary, but I'm liking it, Matty.
I think that they might have learned from some of the failures of past Cubans to really grab the imaginations of fight fans, and they're trying to turn it up a little bit, and I think we all win it when that happens, except for the random guy who gets sent to the hospital by one of these fellas. But these group of Cubans that we have going on right now, there's some people here that they're pretty freaking mean, and we just. Yeah, we might see this change just the sport of boxing in their favor. So I don't know.
You reckon there's a guy you reckon there's a guy that meets him off the boat now, and he's just like Tony Montana talking to Manolo, like, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you entertain the Americans. You understand me?
Well, good. I'm glad of this individual.
Right, lads, I have to bail. I have to bail early tonight. I don't know whether bailing early is better than arriving late, but there you have it. I'll catch you next week or on the Christmas episode or whatever the fuck we're doing. But happy Christmas to the listeners and all, and yous, and see you next week or sometime.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you, Rob. Good stuff. There's Rapping Rob Kelly. He's
Cheers,
come on
lads.
early
Bye.
and he's disappeared, but that's okay. There's only the three of us. We'll get through as best as we can. I'll put the link in the chat if anybody wants to jump on. You are more than welcome. On to the undercard then, and then we'll go on to Day of Reckoning a bit later on. We'll do Inoue Tapales, as Matty has reminded me that we won't be here to preview that fight otherwise, so we might as well do it tonight. A few Belly of the Weeks as well. There's only the holy trinity of talkers on the panel. I'll tell you what else there is as well, Andy. On the Morrell undercard, there are knockouts, and then there are knockouts. I must confess, I got a Wellington. Whenever the right hook landed, there was a bit of beef between Chris Colbert, of course I'm referring to, and Rayo Valenzuela. No debate over this one. The decision is made. Colbert got knocked out. Maybe not cold, but he was his head stuck into the freezer, man. He took his lumps, but when that shot landed, it was night out. You there, Andy?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
I leaned into my microphone. It's sitting in my lap here, and it's just muted itself. Sorry, mate.
Okay.
What bit did you hear? What bit did I get cut off at?
Nothing. Can you hear me? Is all we heard.
All right. Yeah, it was. I'm just trying to remember what I was saying there. Yeah. I think it was, first round, sorry. It was a right hook, top of the head, and it really kind of buzzed him up. And then he just obviously started taking shots, and he's taking another right hand. It's dropped him. He never really recovered from it for me, actually. Seemed to be kind of pushing the punches out. Seemed to be slightly kind of like bleary-eyed. I don't want to say gas, but it just seemed to be, there was no snap to him. And obviously the punches that Valenzuela was throwing at him was lethal. As you say, put him to the freezer. My God. Just... I love to see a knockout when the fighter gets absolutely spangled into the ropes like that. It's absolutely great. And that wee Colbert, he's had that coming. Didn't deserve obviously the victory in the last fight, but then he got served in that one. And as I've said to you guys before, he plays at it. He's played at it a little bit, and he knew he's been badly served up because the writing wasn't much on the wall, but the attitude wasn't right. Going away sparring the likes of Felix Alvarado, who's I think he was a Nicaraguan, I think he was ex-IBF flyweight champion. He was getting the business off him, and his trainer told him he had to kind of start making some changes and some lifestyle choices. I don't know if he has or hasn't, but hasn't improved for me at least. And I think that's him now up as another weight division possibly.
I think he's too high in weight. I think he needs to go back down to super
feather at least, or super
yeah.
feather. Just want to check his weights at the minute. Lightweight.
I just don't think he needs to continue fighting at this point in time. The best things the judges could have done is give him the loss in the first one. He didn't need this knockout. It didn't need to happen. But here we are.
He's an odd character, I think, isn't he, Matty? He's tough. Like, he takes his licks, but he's weird. Do you remember, wasn't the Garcia fight, Hector Luis Garcia, when he refused to get knocked out and he kept on smirking and smiling? He has got a degree of toughness, but he always seems like he's getting battered all the time.
I think it's that Philly attitude, thinking he has to stand there and be a badass kind of thing. And again, it's here. The theme of the night is these non-punchers with a puncher mentality. And fair play to Colbert. He just stood in there and he took his licks. He took his beating like a man until he was done and over with. But he he just fights a way that he doesn't need to, and I think he probably needs to hang it up. He hasn't been taking punches too well. Hector Luis Garcia is not a banger by any degree. I just don't think he's taking shots, and if I was on his team, I would strongly advise him to be considering retirement. I know he didn't come anywhere close to achieving the goals that he wanted to achieve, but he's just not taking punches very well. And that knockout was absolutely vicious. Much like the O'Quinn knockout over McGrail, just not sent him hanging over the ropes. That the way he fell, I looked down, I was like, holy shit, that's like Pacquiao against Marquez. But it just, in my opinion, Colbert needs to hang him up. And I personally, since Frank Martin doesn't want to fight Shakur after having a chance at the title, I think Valenzuela against Frank Martin is a fight that I would like to see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be averse to seeing that myself. Are you talking about retirement though, Matty? Why on earth would you hang them up whenever you've got the likes of Robert Guerrero and Andre Berto leading the way at 40 years of age going in against each other? The big rematch nobody wanted to see. Why would Colbert need to retire if these two guys are still doing it?
It's a fair point. They're really not given the kind of reinforcement to these fighters that they need to see as far as that goes. But Andre Berto and Robert Guerrero got it on some 10, 12 years, whatever, after the first time they fought. Guerrero taking unanimous decision, and what was an all right fight, I thought. It wasn't great, but both guys landed their shots. They showed flashes of what they once were. I thought it was far closer than the cards said. I don't think Berto necessarily had a shot at winning, but I thought it was more of a kind of a 6-4 kind of fight, maybe 7-3. And Guerrero's curious where he can go from here. I'm very curious who the PBC might feed him to. So they have a former champion, multiple weight division champion on their resume, because you just know it's coming.
Yeah, he said afterwards, didn't he? He's going to carry on fighting. I don't know whether that was just the bravado or the adrenaline rushing. I don't want to see him fighting again. In these sort of faux exhibitions against guys like Berto, I mean, they could maybe dig up Victor Ortiz or maybe Marcus Maidana or something. But like you said, you think they might push him through and try to feed him to somebody now?
Yeah, and I don't know who that might be. I don't think you'd be talking like Boots level or something like that, but maybe somebody a little bit below that they're curious about and just getting a name on their resume, giving them a showcase fight. So I would not doubt to see Robert Guerrero sometime in the middle of next year against a PBC prospect.
Yeah, maybe Conor Benn or something could be pushed through possibly to fight Guerrero. He was being talked about before. Oh dear. No, we don't want to see that.
You just ruined the evening, Steve. Okay.
Well, I am good at ruining the evening. Andy, I know you didn't give this much time or attention, as I don't blame you, to be honest. I think it was put on. I was trying to remember who was actually on the card before. Matty reminded me it was Martinez. The opponent couldn't get a visa, but it had a nostalgic feel. They sort of kind of pushed it in to remind us of the Showtime days of old, or even a HBO nod as well with these two guys. Maybe that's why they put it onto the third on the card.
I don't know, mate. I mean, I don't think anybody. I mean, I was absolutely shocked when this got read out last week. This fight was happening. Nobody wanted to see them. I stuck on. I kind of like flipped past it, but I think I kind of like stopped at the fourth round. Berto looked pudgy to me, to be fair. I didn't even pay much attention to Guerrero. Just flipped forward just to see Colbert getting knocked out. Just end of day stuff, really. I mean, obviously, as you mentioned at the kind of start of the broadcast, that we're kind of throwing in some yesteryear clips and that. Obviously, the great moment with Joe Goosen and Diego Corrales, you better fucking get inside of him now type comments. That was great. The other fights, obviously, I mean, mentioned the Vasquez Marquez fights and that, they were just absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
forget actually as well that Ben McClellan was actually on Showtime, whereas we had it on ITV over here. Completely forgot about that. It was Ferdy Pacheco that was doing the broadcast. I'm sure he even said that night as well that it seemed with Jim Watt that McClellan actually quit in the fight. Obviously you had the chaos with Holyfield and Tyson. Hagler Mugabe, I'm sure, was on there as well.
That was the first one, wasn't it, of Showbox or something? Yeah.
And then obviously Floyd we'll just say ended his professional career there anyway. That's what we'll say. Pacquiao's obviously had a few fights over there as well. Biggest, they've done some good business in that as well. I think was it Pacquiao Floyd still the biggest grossing fight of all time. Still, am I right in saying?
I would imagine so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sad to see them go. Really, I mean, obviously, what you were wanting to discuss, obviously, with the Amazon Prime deal on that as well. It'd be interesting to see how they introduce it. Or would it be an additional subscription to the Amazon Prime subbies, for example, additional $5 a month? I don't know, but again, it depends what Big Al is going to be putting on, because if it's going to be like the end of the day stuff that we've had off Showtime the last couple of weeks or whatever, and that. Minus obviously some of the bigger fights that we've had on it, then I'll not be bothering. But if it's competitive fights, 50-50, close to 50-50, big events, it might be worth it. I think everybody practically these days has got a Prime subscription or got access to Prime anyway. So
yeah, I think it'll be part of the subscription, Andy. But the pay-per-views you'll be able to buy them standalone and all. I have the press release in front of me. They're talking about multi-year rights agreements. I know what multi-year means. Is that going to be at least 2, maybe 3, 4 years to deliver viewers the boxing industry's most significant events? I would imagine pay-per-view they'll probably be about 5 or 6 a year. Isn't that what they've done last year? Something like that. Apart from that, they'll probably have the decent main events just on normal Amazon Prime. And then I wonder, Andy, whether they'll have like a sort of another broadcaster, or whether they'll do it all on Prime. The way in the past they've sort of used Spike TV. They had the PBC did a deal with Fox as well. CBS, I think it was originally, as well as Showtime. So whether they'll have something like that to get the sort of youngsters out, or the Showbox type of thing, or whether it'll all be on Amazon. You'd imagine the amount of money involved. They'll just put it all on Amazon.
Probably.
And the bigger fights will be on pay-per-view, obviously.
Yeah, I would think so as well. I just think obviously you got the EPL games, you don't pay extra. I'm assuming that's on top of your subscription, isn't it? So you get that anyway. Yeah, I think pretty much all of it. I mean, they might. I don't think they got a YouTube channel, just out of curiosity. They might put some of their stuff out there, like the Zone and Showtime. You should do maybe put the prelims out on the YouTube.
Eurosport is tied with Amazon, says Mark Stanton.
Yeah, was it no Discovery? I think it might be the same folk actually. Discovery and I see they've got Eurosport and that as well. So again, we just need to see how it operates. But I would imagine they'll probably put out free air content as well. But
and interesting news as well, gentlemen. Discovery is set to enter the sports entertainment market as they're developing a midget wrestling series, and I'm fucking stoked.
Midget wrestling,
yes.
And then obviously you've got big Dana White there. He's officially brought us at the
fight passes. Yeah.
No, Slap is the World Slap Championships. He's managed to get it over a big massive buyout of some company, and that, so they're making big money over there as well.
How are they making money with those fucking things? That shit's just so fucking ridiculous. Of all the shit in the world, just two guys standing in front of each other slapping.
I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest. But regarding the Amazon Prime PBC deal, Matty, I was listening to another YouTube channel, American boxing YouTube channel. Other channels, of course, are available, and they had what I thought was quite a bizarre conversation. And I kind of pulled them up on it in the comments as well. It's all very respectful, but they seem to think that the title was, "Is PBC's deal with Amazon Prime fool's gold?" And they seem to think that the likes of Canelo, Gervonta Davis, Terence Crawford, okay, maybe Terence, maybe Spence, although he's probably done, or those big names, shall we say, it's not guaranteed that they're going to be fighting on Prime, on the Prime network. And I sort of said, well, of course, Gervonta and Canelo are going to be fighting on Prime. And the response to me was, he doesn't think Al Heyman can come up with the money. Do you think DAZN and ESPN wouldn't be interested in funding Canelo to Ankle Crawford's next fights? To which I replied, well, yeah, of course they would, but I can't see that happening. Surely they're not going to go over to Amazon Prime, and it's not guaranteed that you'd have Gervonta, Canelo, and all the other stars fighting on Prime. Or am I being a bit stupid here?
Remember did that with AJ though, with DAZN, didn't they? At the start.
I think you are correct, Steve. That I honestly am on board with you and what you're saying there. I think that they're going to keep it in-house there. I think the pay-per-views they offer are probably going to be pretty freaking good, at least as the main event goes. Because I think if you look at all of the struggles that boxing is having right now with, promoter or networks dropping off of the map and some of these deals just not working, etc. They know that they're going to have to start to produce a better product at this point in time. And if you remember when the PBC stuff first started and were doing a lot, they were doing Showtime, Fox, and they were on a couple of random other channels. They were putting together some pretty entertaining shows and a pretty good product off of the get-go on that. So I have a hunch that at least this first year and a half of this Amazon Prime and PBC deal is going to result in some very good fights, and probably some fights we've been waiting to see for some time.
Interestingly, Hamed, not to be confused with Ahmed, who was on last week, thought they said Canelo still had a deal with Showtime pay-per-view. I heard this as well, Andy, but that Showtime isn't necessarily, they're out of the boxing game or the sports game, but they still have some kind of contractual pay-per-view, which would seem strange to me, how they're going to promote sort of standalone pay-per-views. I know it's Canelo and he is a cash printing machine, but I thought they would have been wanting to get out the game altogether. And the boys are mentioning in the chat as well, it is Discovery, that's right. Whenever you were mentioning about Discovery, and it's TNT that they're linked up with, they bought BT, didn't they? Because DAZN were going to buy, they were in the market to buy BT Sports, I think, and Discovery, who own TNT, ended up buying them instead. So I think that's a separate thing. But anyway, back to Canelo, Andy. Showtime pay-per-view, Hamed's saying, but I don't know. I'd be surprised at that, to be honest.
I'm being, as you guys were talking, I'm just kind of like going through some online stuff and that, see if I can find anything mentioning. It just says obviously they've
Showtime Sports is closed down. That's
I mean, it says,
maybe not pay-per-view element, possibly could still have Canelo.
I mean, they'd still have the ability to produce because their association with CBS, but I don't know.
But they're not put out a teaser like Brian Custer. You might see us next year. Just stay tuned. You know, they'd say some shit like that, wouldn't they? There was none of that. It was very conclusively finished.
No, and you got to consider there's something in the contract when it comes, because it's really the contract with someone involved with PVC, right? So it's probably something with like dissolution of an entity in there, or some of that shakes to save themselves for some dollars out the door kind of stuff. So I don't think this is going to be as big of a deal as people think, and I don't think that we're going to see anything with boxing and Showtime pay-per-view on it in the foreseeable future. I mean, that's just based on them maybe getting back in at a later date if it makes sense, but I don't think it does at this point.
Aye, so it says here, it says here that apparently Canelo's deal was with the PBC. He's got 2 more fights on that PBC deal. So it wasn't exclusively with Showtime, it was apparently with PBC that he signed. So if that's the case, PBC are moving, was it 150 odd fighters, which would include Canelo, across to Amazon. So yeah, unless I'm reading that wrong, if anybody can say that the sign was specifically with the platform Showtime, but I would think it would be by Uncle Al, to be fair. And I always got the exclusive deal with Showtime, so it would make sense.
Steve?
I've just got a message.
Shit, where'd Steve go?
Steve apparently is consistent message saying the computer's randomly crashed.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Fuck sake.
All right.
So he's just logging back in the now, so he'll be in as quick as he possibly can. So aye, so this deal, a couple of fights for Canelo, Matt, he's still on that deal apparently, but I don't know if you can find any information but I would assume it's with PBC.
We'll have to look through a little bit more and see what might be happening with that. I'm sure more, since it's only been something that's been going on the last few weeks, I'm sure we're going to get more information over the next 6 or over the next coming weeks as this kind of the smoke clears from this whole thing, because it is a big change in sports for this to happen. Nobody knows where all the chips are going to fall, but my hunch is that Amazon obviously is going to pick up a whole bunch of it, and I have a feeling that PBC is going to be on the lookout for some other outlet for some smaller development shows possibly too, but we'll see what that might be.
Lovely, thank you, Matty. I'm not sure what happened to me. I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay. My computer's completely
Interpol.
Itself. Must
Interpol.
Be. You were talking, all of a sudden you just went, woo.
It's still live anyway, so I'll just check the YouTube, so it's still going.
Yeah, it should be running off the computer, off the internet, hopefully the browser. So, just before we wrap this section up, I'll get my questions in quickly in case I disappear again. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen. Andy, regarding the faces we might be seeing on the new Amazon Prime deal, what odds would you say we might see Shakur Stevenson, for example? I mean, he's sort of fed up with Top Rank. If rumours are to be believed, he's negotiating a new contract. Teofimo Lopez, his contract, I think that might have expired. He's a notoriously spiky character. What price we might see these guys or anybody else you can think of possibly turning up on PBC? Maybe their heads turned and thought, oh, Amazon Prime, fancy a bit of that money, might move over to Uncle Al.
Well, I was just seeing something last night. It looks like Lopez is on the brink of signing a new deal with Top Rank, to be fair, based off some of the social media stuff that he's been putting out anyway. So, Shakur Stevenson, what's his deal? Is it one fight left, or is the deal up?
I think it's finished, yeah.
To be fair, I mean, Stevenson's not really he's not going to command much, to be fair, just now as well, after that last fight. Considering what ESPN been putting on, to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if Uncle Bob was to let his fighters fight on Prime, to be fair, providing he got a wee cut. I wouldn't be surprised to see Stevenson leave ESPN as well. You know how it kind of went with Crawford. Stevenson's quite paleo. He's got the ear of Crawford and that as well.
What about Crawford? Surely he's going to appear.
Oh, aye.
Go on to PBC now, isn't he?
Without
Would imagine.
doubt.
Maybe not sign with them, but he has the power to be a free agent. But he's going to be fighting on there. You would have thought.
I wouldn't doubt that the Spence Crawford rematch is going to be their first pay-per-view.
Yeah, but he's got that contract still, so he's probably going to have to remain there, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, Uncle Al might say, "Listen, give us a couple of fights, and I'll get you that contract, for that rematch and whatever it's going to be, So
where else is he going to go? Beat up Spence, get a nice payday. The alternatives are Bob Arum, who he's trying to sue because he said he's a big racist. DAZN, Eddie Hearn has absolutely nothing for him. Well, he could go back to BLK Prime, aren't they going to become the future of boxing?
He's going to fight David the FNZ again, was he? So he's got Saudi Arabian money to look forward to, but again, to pay generational wealth to someone like to someone like Crawford, you're gonna have to drag him up in weight to fight. I don't know, like a Charlo or something along those lines. But because there's nothing really there, I think everybody kind of agrees. I would probably say that you would agree with Johnny there. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised to see him retire. Actually, but you just don't see anything different in that Spence rematch. You just don't see it.
No, I don't see anything different either. Anything else, Matty, to add? I had something else I was going to talk about before we all went robo on the Amazon Prime. I can't remember what it was now, so feel free to close us up if you don't have anything else. Are you subscribed to Amazon Prime, I'm assuming, Matthew? Yes.
There's many. I know, but that's actually one thing where I know enough people who are that I'm not going to worry about it.
Good stuff. Like what I hear. Before we go into the chat, Matty, we'll stick with you. We'll go over to Pro Box on Wednesday evening. I didn't
see it either. I had a meeting.
Yeah, that's okay. Batajan Jukumbayev getting a win over Mohamed Mamoon. Kelvin Davis, the boys in the chat were saying he looked a little bit hittable. Nahi Lopez as well. A shout out to the boys on the opening Showtime prelim.
I did see Lopez. I watched the first hour. I mean, Lopez just beat the snot out of his opponent. He's a very good prospect. Najee Lopez is definitely one to watch at 175 pounds.
That one wasn't very competitive, was it, they were saying?
No, he's a really solid fighter. Definitely one of the better ones that we've seen coming up on these Pro Box cards. He needs to step up at this point in time. I think he's definitely looking down the barrel of becoming a contender in a few fights.
Najee Lopez, we'll keep an eye on him. We're also going to keep an eye on the chat as well. Let's have a look through them before we go on to Clarissa Shields. No, it wasn't Clarissa Shields. It was the other one. Franchon, her old friend with the wig. Against Shadazia Green. Before we do so, let's have a look through the chat. Johnny is in there. Michael Thompson is with us on this fine Sunday evening. So is Hamed. Yumi Yapi as well. Who else have we got here? Mark Stanton, MB. He's a regular in the chat. Got nothing better to do with his time. Might as well spend it with us. Just like Thomas Newman, who's changed. He's Cliff. No, that's not Cliff. Norm, isn't it? That's Norm on the photo there from Cheers. So shout out to Thomas and Newman. Chris Butler as well. Oh, yeah. Andy forgot about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that too. AP is with us. Des was on the call earlier. And who else have we got? Let's just scroll down the chat and see who there is. MB. Yeah, we've mentioned him already. We might as well mention him again for good measure. Thanks to everybody listening and participating in the chat. Even bigger thanks to anyone who joins us over on patreon.com/Boxing Asylum, like Jordan Harrison, who joined up this week. Welcome to you, thriving community over on the chat. We've got the Prediction League is thriving as well, Matty. I think Derek Eagers is running away with it at the moment. He's getting the picks right every weekend. He's doing his best over there. Everybody seems to be enjoying the WhatsApp group and the Prediction League at the moment.
It's a great time in there. Derek is definitely the showing himself to be separated from the field at this point in time. Imagine he'll take a couple of his closest competitors being successful with picking a draw to be able to catch him at this point in time. So we will have a new person to join the winners group of the Boxing Nutters Prediction League. Which good that because of my involvement, I was able to form the group. Otherwise, I would never be anywhere near it.
Yep. Corruption is a crime. We do not agree with that. But maybe
the goal is to get enough people in there that show themselves as good boxing predictors that after I get my picks in, I'll just be like, all right, what'd you guys say? And I'll use that for the money in the gambling apps. So
like he's thinking with these parlays on the Sunday evening, episode 553. Matty giving out advice. Andy's here along with me, Steve, as well. The winner of the Prediction League may or may not win themselves a trip over to the Caribe Royale in Orlando, Florida. Wouldn't that be lovely? The Florida Athletic Commission were on hand to sort this one out. Yoenis Tellez, Cuban, who gets rid of people. Livan Navarro with a 10th round stoppage win over him. Lovely left hand that finished that one off.
Right on the fucking point of the chin that was, Steve. My God. I mean, just picture perfect shot there by Tellez. And man, that kid's going somewhere. He's a hell of a puncher.
He looks good, doesn't he? They were saying that he's fought mostly people with losing records, and he steps up against Sergio Garcia, absolutely gets the job done. And he wasn't content, Matty, as you mentioned, with letting the fight drift away, because Navarro was tough as old boots. He was nearly knocked out, I think, the 7th and the 8th round. We thought he was going to go. Then we thought he was going to last the distance. That left hand he got caught with, it was a cracking shot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it would have knocked out pretty much anyone I can think of off the top of my head. So what division is Tellez fighting against, Steve? I'm struggling. I think he's kind of up there.
Light middle, is it? I think.
Yeah.
154, yeah.
Yeah, interesting guy around there. Talented fighter in an area where there's a lot of talent. Keep building them right, man. He could play. Interesting fighter.
Mm-hmm. David Palmer is an interesting listener. He's thrown in $9.99 before I get dragged away again. Bam was levels above. Thank you very much, David. He's always good for a question or two. And he's in the Nutters group and he throws in super chats. So thank you to him. Shadazia Green losing a 10-round decision to Franchon Cruz de Zern. Jake Paul, the boys in the chat seem to think there's something a bit fishy about this. I could be a little bit naive, but I thought the uppercut he landed on Andre August was a cracker. August's eyes were rolling in the back of his head. And my eyes were rolling towards sleep, Matty, as I saw Shadazia against Franchon Cruz de Zern. I'm not sure how much you actually got to watch this fight, but you were maybe a little bit surprised about the way it panned out. Some of us thought that Green, she could box a little bit, but she was a banger. The second coming of Ann Wolf, but she wasn't able to land the shots against Franchon. She ain't pretty, she ain't the sweet scientist, but she gets the job done.
No, she fought the right fight when it comes to trying to deal with somebody who tries to catch you towards the end of their punches. I still need to get in there and watch the whole thing, but she just made it sloppy and definitely came in there as a big underdog and pulled it off. She was 4 or 5-1, I think, in some places. So a bit of a shocker there. And it's I'm obviously happy for Franchon. You go get it, but it's disappointing because we do have high hopes for Shadazia, and we've seen so many of these fights already with these more talented fighters, Steve, that I think seeing another one in the makes would have been better than potentially getting rinse and repeat with what we've already had before us.
Certainly, yep. Jake Paul getting the job done. One thing I did notice, Andy, I don't want to drag you down to this hole because Jake Paul, he is a celebrity boxer and all, but I think it's dwindling now. We were talking arenas originally, Showtime pay-per-views, DAZN pay-per-views. His Excellency was digging into his pockets. What I saw on Friday night, fair enough, people are interested. There's still a good crowd there. No doubt people are tuning in. But the fact you've gone on DAZN, the fact now you look like almost a leisure centre, wasn't full. The crowd were enjoying themselves, but it's dwindling now, isn't it, the star, this Jake Paul thing? Ever since he suffered that first loss, we all felt that the story would kind of peter out a little bit.
Yeah, it seems to kind of went that way, mate, to be fair. He just needs to kind of, if he's going to take it, he obviously takes it serious enough, to be fair, but, used to be fighting like some more seasoned fighters. I mean, I've got no idea who this guy was. He was fighting. I mean, is he a trained pro or is he one of his own type
kind
guys?
of club fighter with a fair bit of time out of the ring here.
Yeah, he'd been out for about 5 years, hadn't he? Before they had the tune up a few weeks ago.
Still the same MO then, basically, in terms of opponents. So nothing's really changing. He's just trading off his whatever it is, whatever success that he's got in terms of online, viewers, whatever they're willing to pay in that. But it still is big money, though. I think, mate. I mean, some of these German shows, obviously, that you see, like some of these guys, that these strongman type G glorifies, that over in Germany, they're having these type of shows and that as well. So, in terms of, I don't know in terms of how much money they've been making, but yeah, I get it. There's a time and place for it. I think there's time's been, but as long as they're going to get viewers and people willing to pay for it, they're going to try and wring out as much as possible. I mean, some of the shit we've seen off the Misfits, I'm just basing it off some of the videos that I've seen on Twitter in terms of pictures and short clips and that. Fucking disaster waiting to happen. It really is. Some of these days, we've said it before, some of these days somebody's going to get badly hurt and then the whole shit's going to come under scrutiny.
Like 59-year-old Scott England from Value of the Week last week.
Right, and that happened in America where we know life's cheap unless you've got fucking medical insurance. But if that happened, can you imagine that happening, like say in the UK, mate? Firstly, that would never be allowed to happen in the UK to a point. We wouldn't have a British license anyway, put it that way. Underground, possibly, but fucking you or I could go to America right now and get a fucking license tomorrow to fight.
In like Tennessee
easy.
or one of them places.
Easy, mate.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even need to even hand over your fucking medical certificate.
I think you should.
Well, if I come over and visit you, Matty, I might get a fight in while I'm over.
You can. That's how you pay for your trip.
By getting knocked out.
Exactly.
By Andre August.
God, I would hope not. And
he'd kill me.
I tell you that I think that was a legit uppercut from Paul as well, Steve. And I think Jake Paul, I think he's actually pretty self-aware as far as his level and things of that nature. The fact that this wasn't pay-per-view and he was featuring some fighters and some fights that he wanted to highlight. I think he knows where he's at. And more so than I think that he's a fighter and a promoter, I think he's a promoter who sometimes fights. And where this train stops, I don't know. But I really do honestly believe that boxing is better for having Jake Paul in it. That's my opinion.
AP says Wellington, the road warrior, maybe once upon a time. No, I do. I go to the boxing gym a couple of times a week with my son. He spars me. He's a heavy hitter. I'm not as young as I used to be. I was shit when I was younger. I'm even worse now. But, you got to get in there and throw a few shots, haven't you? Try and keep yourself in some kind of fitness. And maybe, Matty, I could be one of David Palmer's fighters. Here's a controversial view, he says. Wellington's shit. No, he says, UK fighters are generally overrated. And US fighters bring them back down to earth. There's one to bring you back down to earth with a bang.
I think that the domestic level sometimes might fool people into thinking like that they're European or world level at times. But I also think that you have to consider that, we have, roughly 4 or 5 times your population. So you kind of have to take all that in and judge based on the numbers. And I think based upon, the population, I mean, the number of championship boxers that the UK produces, it's actually quite incredible. And yeah, every once in a while, one might get upended, but then you also have, Kell Brook beating Sean Porter and plenty of stories like that and more. So I wouldn't think about it too far. I judge it fight by fight. And Sonny Edwards is still a very good fighter. It's just that Bam Rodriguez is a special fighter.
Bam Rodriguez is a special fighter. Des says, British fighters operate in an echo chamber. We have our own scene and it's interesting enough to be sustainable. It's when we bring the good kids in that it comes undone. Yep, I think that's fair enough. Chris Butler says, UK fighters have a massive fan base. That's why they get pushed. And M. Lithgow says, Steve getting busted up by his son like Eddie made Barry Hearn quit in a spa. I'll tell you one thing, Matty. My other son, he's into badminton, and I give that a try. I'm even worse at that. I'm getting beaten up by old ladies at badminton. Can barely raise the racket, man. I'm terrible.
What the fuck is with that game, and how is it popular? I remember years ago, I woke up in the middle of the night and the Olympics was happening. It was the middle of the night. I turned it on. What is it? Women's badminton.
It's hard, man. Look at I'm knackered.
Did you notice the Chinese dominate at it? It's fucking insane. I don't know what it is.
You're actually hitting a cock with feathers in it, by the way.
You know my bad shoulder, Andy. I could barely lift the bat and do half the shots, man.
As long as it's not a wanking shoulder thing, you'll be fine, mate.
Don't those things weigh like 6 ounces? The badminton paddles? Jesus Christ, you might need to get surgery on your shoulders. Steve.
Badminton paddles.
What do you call them? I don't know.
Rackets,
paddles. I don't know. If you call it a paddle, you can bring it into the bedroom and it's dual use. Pardon me for being economical.
Right. I feel like we've digressed here. I'm going to do a quick wrap up from the weekend, boys. You can jump in on anything that I might have mentioned or might have missed if you want. If not, you don't have to. Right. So first of all, Showtime Morrell, we've mentioned that. Let's get rid of them. We had Josh Kelly getting a third round knockout win over Placido Domingo in Sunderland. I don't think anybody watched that one. Over in Australia, we had Sam Goodman getting a 12-round decision win over Zhong Liu. Yusuf Dib lost. Liam Wilson didn't. He beat Jackson John England.
Apparently, that was a very good fight, too. I'm going to try to track that one down.
Try and track that one down. We had the Pulevs featuring Kubrat getting a win over Andre Vovajic. Tervel as well against Leonardo Minor. Luke Santamaria was on that card, as was Edgus Kavalowskis. That was USA Fight TV. And also Chris Billum-Smith last Sunday getting a strange retirement win over Matas Masternak, who retired with a rib injury. I don't know if you boys saw any of those things that I just mentioned.
Andy was living on fucking cloud nine as that Billum-Smith fight was going on, and Masternak was laying in those rights and just kind of having his way. Then CBS starts landing body shots, and all of a sudden it's over. Oh, my rib is broken. Like all of a sudden, like Andy went from fucking all the highs to the lowest lows in just the blink of an eye. It just went tumbling down.
Did you manage to watch it in the end of the CBS? It was a bit of a strange one, wasn't it?
I didn't see it, mate. As I said, I was raging because I thought I was quids in. I thought I was but a pick. I knew it, just he sprays it and then he fucking. I like you bastard. Fucking unbelievable.
That's the way it goes. No action from Germany this weekend, Andy? No, nothing keeping you interested?
Nah, a couple of fights for Italy though, mate. But nothing you want to be, bogging up the fucking airwaves with, trust me, mate. It says there was nothing else on. As I says, I'm refusing to even illegally stream DAZN these days. Fucking Josh Kelly, man, believe. I mean, the fucker was on Channel 5 in his last fight. Was he? No, he's back on DAZN. What the fuck's happening there? Yeah, nah, fuck that. BT's been, TNT, sorry, has been quiet this week. Nothing on Channel 5. They've been pretty awful as well, to be fair. So, yeah, nothing really there. As I says, just flipping through the channels, mate. That's what I kind of came across. Nothing worth fucking pissing anybody off about, though.
Do you know what they should be picking up? Next Tuesday, the 19th of December, nothing to do with Nico Ali Walsh. I'm assuming he won in Guyana. Over in Ghana, we have the IBO All Africa Super Welterweight title vacant, and the Universal Boxing Organization International Super Welterweight title. Tony Bang is fighting for that one. He's from Berkshire. I remember interviewing him many years ago. Nice guy. He's fighting for those esteemed titles. Also, as you mentioned there, Andy, Prince Patel, 28-1-2. He's back on the road, 12-rounder against Ali Bamidele Lassisi for the vacant IBO World Bantamweight title. Tony Bang there, I notice, is one of the promoters as well. So they're pulling a Saul Farah there. Prince Patel, what's he doing? What's he doing, Andy?
Well, we asked this before, and that. I mean, the amount of fights he's had abroad and that, how the fuck is he getting, well, it's not our business at the end of the day, but how the fuck is he getting paid? I mean, it's literally going to, theoretically, how much do you think it would cost, mate, for you or us to go and fly out there for a holiday?
Fuck, I don't know. A couple of grand, probably.
3-4 grand.
Aye.
He's not getting paid any more than that over there, man. If he's getting paid in fucking washers, or he's getting his ticket money, his food stamps, I don't know what the fuck he's getting there, but yes, if there's nothing else on next week, I might, and if it's free to air, I might stick it on. Who knows? That's how desperate it is. What day is it, mate? Saturday, did you say?
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
This coming Tuesday.
Yep. Speaking of weird cards in Africa, did Ollie Walsh win?
That's what I was just saying. I don't know, to be honest with you. It just literally occurred to me. Let's have a look. Ollie Walsh. That's the big one here. Oh, I don't think it took place. It's not on his record at all. There's no mention of it.
No, he won.
Oh, did he? Oh.
All praise be to Allah for my victory. I don't know if it was a
Top Rank sent out a message, Andy. Best of luck to our very own Nico Ali Walsh. Our very own Azim will ship him off halfway across the world.
see him kind of like walking through. Trying to see if he definitely.
Oh yeah, it wasn't Guyana. Sorry, it was Equatorial Guinea, wasn't he? It was fighting.
I can't find the actual result, but he definitely won. I don't know if it was decision or if it was a knockout.
We'll try and find out. You should have got a shout out on the Facebook stream, Andy, like back in the day. And was it Namibia or something?
You know, that kid that Patel's in against, I wouldn't write him off, honestly.
Think he's going to do the business?
He might. I haven't really seen a lot of him, but he's building himself. You can kind of see a career arc. He moved himself to Dubai. He's taken on a few fighters with at least some decent records. It's not just chumps. He's live in that fight, I think.
A live fight for Matty there. Right, let's move on to the big one next weekend. We'll be talking about Inoue Tapales later on. Value of the weeks are still to come as well. I have put the link in the chat there, so if anybody wants to come on and talk about the Day of Reckoning, then you are absolutely welcome. I have put a little thing here as well. What are you looking forward to on the Day of Reckoning card? So next weekend we'll be there going live and exclusive as the card takes place, as Matty mentioned on last week's show. What are you actually looking forward to? What do you think the best fight's going to be? What's going to steal the show? What's a potential upset in the making? Just tell us what you're looking forward to on the Day of Reckoning card. So let's go through it then, shall we? One by one. First of all, this sort of early stuff, Matty, we'll deal with that before we get on to the main course. Filip Hrgović, we'll do it in blocks of three. So Filip Hrgović against Mark Demori. I expect Hrgović to get rid of Demori because he's a bit of a waster. Frank Sanchez against Junior Farr, I think, has the potential to be a bit of a stinker. There's a question mark next to it. The box record may be asking why on earth this fight's been put on. More than likely, they're asking how long it's going to be. Probably a 10-rounder. And then Arslanbek Makhmudov, the third fight as well, 18-0, going against Ajit Kabayel, 23-0. He's a banger. Makhmudov comes forward, gets hold of you, roughs you up, tries to knock you out. Kabayel is the complete opposite. He likes to get on the back foot and outbox people. So what about that? Hrgović Demori, Sanchez against Junior Farr, and Makhmudov against Ajit Kabayel, Matty.
Well, you know, I would be more interested in you guys' thoughts on Kabayel. I haven't seen a lot of him. I've seen Makhmudov, obviously, and my hunch would be that he's just going to demolish Kabayel in a few rounds. I think that Sanchez he's a really sharp puncher, and I know a lot of people think that this could be a boring whatever fight. Faz, nothing too great. I mean, he's no great shakes whatsoever, honestly.
Crap.
And I think you might kind of see something kind of like where you got a really sharp puncher who can just find an opening, and it happens pretty early, kind of like when it's probably, what is it now, 2 years ago, when Lara just demolished that cornflake Lamana guy. It just he just wasn't there, and one guy's just way more skilled. So I think that's going to end up pretty quick. What I worry about Hrgović against Demori, you look at it and you're like, oh, Hrgović should take him out in just a couple, 2-3 rounds. Right? He's clearly better, but I think Hrgović has a problem with fighting to the level of his opposition to some degree. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that one be the junker of this group of fights.
Okay, Matty has made his feelings known. The boys in the chat have as well. And girls, possibly. They could be out there. We don't know. Mark Stanton says Hrgović will be a stinker. Thomas Newman says, did Frank Sanchez turn up yet? He wasn't at the launch presser or at the grand arrivals. I know there was some issue over Jay Opetaya's opponent as well. Kabayel will test Makhmudov's body and give him some movement and a double jab to deal with. Michael Thompson says, haven't seen Sanchez for so long. I'm beginning to doubt if he exists. His promoters are probably thinking the same as well. Michael Thompson's talking about something else. Okay, then, Andy. So first 3 fights on the card. Makhmudov, Kabayel, Sanchez, Farr, Hrgović, Demori. What are you thinking? Demori's had plenty of time. What is it, 8 years since the hay loss to get himself back into action? What are you expecting?
I don't know, mate. I'm obviously Hrgović to win, obviously. Probably by murder of the eyeballs. It'll be an absolute shit fight. I think he'll probably get a mercy stoppage. I noticed on BOTWs, this isn't going to rounds listed, so probably an 8-rounder possibly.
I think 10 they'll probably do, won't they?
Yeah, probably, mate. Frank Sanchez against Junior Farr. Now, listen, I'm going to go with Sanchez knockout because fucking Lucas Brown beat that bum Junior Fa. Was it last year by first round stoppage? So and fucking Lucas Brown. I'm not into triangle threes and all that type of stuff, Matt. But Lucas Brown got absolutely sparkled off that Petrovsky last week or 2 weeks ago.
It's time for Lucas to hang him up for sure.
Yeah, without doubt. But the saying this is Lucas, who's like a year removed from knocking out Junior Fa. So plus, obviously, Parker kind of beat him up over 12 rounds or whatever it was. And then Mahmudov, I agree with, who was it, Steve, that mentioned there about the jab and the movement? Was it MB? I agree with that.
Yes.
I have seen a fair bit of Kabayel. He's a decent technician, good uppercuts to the body and that as well. Mahmudov is pretty stiff, straight up, no special effects, as Rob would say. So, probably be a bit more difficult one, actually. I could potentially see Kabayel outbox him to a decision. Not really seen Mahmudov properly tested, so this could be the fight. Then again, just depending on Kabayel as well, how's he going to turn up? But I think this fight could be out that wee kind of like 3 fights you've picked out there, mate. I think that could be the more interesting out of the bottom 3 fights. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kabayel possibly pull off a decision. Mahmudov's still going to be tested. Good power, obviously, in that as well. But Kabayel has got the angles. He's got decent jab, decent foot movement. As I say, he's got decent shots of the body in that as well. So it's I would say it'd be an upset if he was to pull that one off.
Could be a possible upset there. No upset here from Danny Young. He's jumped on, no doubt, to talk about Inoue Tapales. But Danny, I want to get your opinions on the next 2 fights that I'm going to mention here. No heavyweight action for you, unfortunately. We're going down to cruiserweights. Jay Opataya, if it takes place, he's defending his IBF title against Ellis Zorro.
He's vacated that belt, mate.
Oh, right, okay. So I thought there was some issue over that. So is Opataya on the card at all, Andy? Do we know?
Yeah, I believe he's on the card, mate. That's the reason why he's vacated, because he was.
Oh, right. So he can still go through with the fight.
I believe so. Because he was getting told. I believe. I don't know if it was
fight Bradis or something. They were saying.
No, it was somebody else. Give me a second, mate. I just want to pull up the rankings here.
Well, he was probably getting at least $250,000 for this.
He wants the money, doesn't he?
Mm.
He wants that money.
I can't. It might have been the Bradis rematch, mate, possibly. But if it isn't, it's potentially somebody else. But I believe he was mandated, and he's new vacated. I believe.
Fair enough. Thanks for clarifying that, Andy. Danny, back to you then in that case with Dimitri Bivol against Lyndon Arthur. He's only got 1 loss on his record, Arthur, but he had to come from behind to win that IBO World Heavyweight title, which is on the line alongside Bivol's WBA Super World Light Heavyweight title. After beating Canelo and then beating Ramirez, Bivol is lesser spotted these days. Are you happy to see him, even if it is against someone like Lyndon Arthur, who he should beat? But in the past, we've seen Bivol fight down to the level of his opposition.
Yeah, hi Steve. Can you hear me all right? Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
Good man. All right. Yeah, no. Yeah, you just want to see Bivol in action because obviously, like, we're just all, waiting for the big Beterbiev Bivol kind of unification, aren't we? So the Callum Smith fight for Beterbiev is January, isn't it? I think it is.
Yep, 13th,
right?
I think.
So yeah, like they're fighting, in and around the kind of same date, within a month of each other. Get these two out of the way, warm-ups, if you like. I know people are going, I've seen people punt money on Smith, but I can't see it myself. So I think those two will come out unscathed, and we'll just wait for the next one. Hopefully, this Riyadh season can pick that one up as a big unified event, and we'll get what we want to see. So yeah, I don't mind Bivol against Arthur. Arthur, yes, he's got 1 loss, but in truth, he's always kind of, for me, kind of maybe at best the European level. I know he had the win over your man there.
Yard.
Oh God, Yard. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Yard. But then again, Yard in truth was European level at best from. And then he turned up for the Beterbiev fight and put a few good rounds in there. So, yeah, fine. You know what I mean? But I mean, Lyndon Arthur hasn't fought for a little while either, has he? So, or no one of note anyway. So yeah, a takeover fight really for Bivol, and then Opataya. I'm assuming he's just vacated for the money because. If you're on this card and then you've got the sanctioning body telling you, no, you're not fighting this person. We want you to fight X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
You're going to say, bollocks, I'm taking this money because it's, for a guy like him, you don't get many fights, across the pond where he is. So you've just got to take what you can get, and if it is good money, and I assume it would be, given the card that it's on, you've got to take it, and you've got to think of your family and all the rest of it. So fair play to him. But I'd like to see that once he gets through this one, that he might actually go in with a name of some sort. I'm just wondering whether Opetaia would be one of these guys that would move into that new kind of bridgerweight category, but maybe not. No,
I don't think so.
He's he's not a small cruiserweight, but he's not a big cruiserweight, is he? From what I remember. So
He's about 6'2". He's pretty well filled out, but you'd see them going for the heavyweight money. Those sorts of intervening things. It doesn't seem to be the names there.
Opetaia is at least 6'3", I think, and he is chiseled. I would say he's basically David Haye kind of build.
But he's no. Having seen a few of his fights, there's nothing's really making me think. Like that Usyk, that you think, oh, he could step up. Like he's not showing anything that I could think. Or he could probably trouble. I mean, yes, he could probably trouble a few of the heavyweights because let's face it, it's not a blessed division, is it? So, but again, hopefully a tick over fight for him. He'll bust him out of the way, and then hopefully he'll get an opponent that's meaningful in the new year for me.
Hopefully so, Danny. Stick with us for as long as you want. Des is back with us. Good to see you there, Des. Back onto the heavyweights for you, actually. Daniel Dubois against Jarrell Miller. It's one of these fights that's sort of split in opinion. Some people seem to think that Miller's a big pudding who's going to get blasted out by Daniel. Other people think Daniel's a bit one-dimensional. Miller is tough, if nothing else. He will soak up the shots and keep coming. Intriguing clash of styles. Where do you stand on this one, Des?
I think Dubois wins. I think Dubois brings together all his experience, the going out to fight Usyk, the Joe Joyce defeat, which I think was his best performance, and I think he sorts Miller right out. I think he stops Miller. I don't think Miller's fit enough to go 10 rounds or 12 rounds either.
I don't know. I think he might be, Des. I think he has in the past. Not against anyone of Dubois' character, and he'll be juiced up to the gills, you would imagine. So,
is he 300 pounds and things like that? It's like it's a lot to ask, isn't it?
You have to remember, though, that there's 330-pound NFL linemen who run a 40-yard dash in less than 5 seconds. It's sometimes that size is no indication of the ability. This is going to tell a lot about Miller and Dubois. That's why it's such an interesting fight. Great fight on paper. Absolutely.
Matt, it's interesting you use that comparison because I used to know a lot of 100-meter sprinters. And sometimes when them 100-meter sprinters finish, they get under 11. Sometimes they can't talk for 2 minutes. So it's a strange. I get it. I know. I totally understand with a linebacker comparison, but we're asking. I mean, is this fight over 12 rounds?
12 rounds, yeah.
You're asking.
No, it's
Miller.
not. No, it's not. We all know it's not over 12 rounds.
You're asking Miller to go 36 minutes against a younger, fresher, bigger kid. I don't think he'll last for 36. I think Dubois stops him.
So this is my hunch on this one, Des, is I think this fight goes one of two ways. And I'll kick this off saying that a couple of weeks ago, I got a little bit of action on Jarrell Miller at 4-1 just to win. Mm-hmm. Now you're seeing Jarrell Miller as tight as 5. There's been a fair amount of money that's moved in his direction. And my hunch is that either A, that money moving in is right. Dubois is fragile. Miller is a tank, and it's just a bad style matchup. And he's going to eventually just Dubois not necessarily having the tank. He's just going to get taken out by a big dude. Or this big guy without much head movement, without much defense is going to be caught clean. He's going to be caught a lot, and he'll be taken out in the first 6 rounds. And I think it's an easy place to play a cover when you have a 4-1 out there. And I'm thinking you can probably get Dubois first 6 rounds, probably at least near the same.
I think this is where you've got to be very careful because you've got the best talker in boxing against the worst talker in boxing. And I think anyone watching this up to the first bell, you naturally assume Jarrell Miller is going to win this fight. And I think once the bell goes, I think that will switch. I think there's been a lot of mug money on Miller because he's such a good talker.
You might be right. And I guess that's why it makes this fight so interesting, especially considering that the hardcore boxing fans we're curious about Miller on his way up. This big tank takes a shot, lands a bunch of hard shots, had the chance against Joshua, blew it. So I think we're all still very curious about that fighter and what he's capable of. But at the same time, what is that, 5 years ago now? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting fight on paper, and I honestly think it's the best looking fight of the entire card, as far as being closer to a coin flip and having some intrigue to it.
He has gone the 12 as well in the past, but it was against Johan de Tapales, so you have to imagine that. I think I saw that fight. It's going to be pretty one-sided. He's not going to be put under any great pace. Back to you, Des. Actually, this is the chat's showing us exactly how things are back and forward. Michael Thompson says, good points from Des. Miller looked knackered early against Brown, but then number one says, Dubois went down 3 times to Lorena. And we know we could put that down to the cruciate injury or whatever it was, supposedly, Des, but the fact he was dropped by Lorena, who's effectively a cruiserweight, it does add a bit of intrigue.
It does. And it's almost like heavyweight boxers are never forgiven for getting dropped, are they? I mean, we talk about him getting dropped, but we don't talk about him getting back up, do we? And he did get back up, and he did stop the kid in the next round. So could you imagine if you was Dubois' trainer and Shane said to him, it was McGuigan in the corner, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he said, right, jump on this kid now. You've got a bad knee. I don't want this going another round. Dubois gone out and executed brilliantly, but we never quite see that side of it. We just think Dubois gone down, and I still think Dubois is hurting from the Joe Joyce loss. And it's really interesting because Dubois took so much flack. By comparison, Sonny's getting so much love for pretty much the same action, and it's not the same consequence. I think Dubois is not being forgiven for the Joe Joyce thing. I think the Lorena thing's hanging over him. And even I'm still a little bit disappointed the way he approached the Usyk fight. I don't think he put his foot on the gas. I don't think he jumped on him when he should have done. But I think he'll use all of that. And I think he'll had a lot of people in his ear saying, this is where you turn up. And to go back to Matty's point, Miller was sitting in between, I think it was Wilder and Parker, and he was calling out the winner of AJ and Volin. He said, after I've done you, I'm going to take on Wilder and maybe I'll get on to Fury. If you wasn't a boxing enthusiast, if you didn't know boxing, you'd watch this fight, you'd watch the pressers, and it's only going to get more intense. And you think, Miller is full of confidence, he's the fighter on the up, and Dubois is the guy that's brought in to get beat. But we know a bit different to that, don't we? We know Dubois is a capable kid, but he's just not a good talker. I think this fight, it's the hardest fight of Miller's career. I think it's probably the most pivotal fight of Dubois' career. He has to win. I think Dubois jumps on him and stops him.
And just to play devil's advocate, Des, you mentioned about hurting from the Joyce fight, the issues around the Lorena fight, him not putting the foot down against Usyk, and use that as an example of how people might have talked him around, and all of a sudden he's going to give a performance based off those 3 previous fights. But what happens if he is that fighter that turned up and he's still mentally that fighter that turned up against Usyk, Lorena and Joyce? Do we then suddenly think that Miller has a better chance?
Well, look, I've always said this, and me and you've spoke about this plenty of times. I think Dubois is someone you could spook. I think if Dubois was to fight a Dillian White, or if he was to fight a Deontay Wilder, I think them guys could really spook him. But I think if Dubois can keep his head together, if Dubois can keep focused, I think it's the Dubois win. But you're absolutely right. This gets really interesting if Miller has a really good first 3 rounds and starts to rough Dubois up. But when you look at Dubois, if you look at his physicality, if you look at his capability, he shouldn't be getting roughed up by Miller. He should be doing the roughing up. And I go back to it, Steve. The best version of Dubois I've ever seen was against Joe Joyce. He was brilliant that night. And he was probably up on the cards when he got beat. And if he'd have just stayed in that mindset, if he'd have just, it's a bit like what they've done to Anthony Joshua against Ruiz. They overcomplicated it. If they'd just simplified this and said, on another night, that injury don't occur and you go on to win the fight, I think you'd have seen a better version of Dubois against Usyk. But look, it's done and dusted. I'll go back to what I said. I think if he can draw on all his experience, you get a really good version of Dubois. And it's a pivotal night for him. But you're absolutely right. If Miller starts fast and roughs him up in the first 3 or 4 rounds, it gets really interesting.
Matt Butters has jumped in. He says, my day of reckoning picks. He thinks Wallin is going to win on points. He thinks Wilder's going to win KO 3, Bivol KO 4. Opatoya KO 5, Mahmudov KO 6. I'm seeing a pattern here. Sanchez points. Oh no, sorry. I mean
0.7, Steve.
I know.
0.7.
I know. Miller KO 8. I couldn't carry the joke on Matty. Miller KO and Horgovich KO as well for Matt Butters there. Andy, I think it's going to be interesting to see which way Dubois Miller goes from a mental standpoint as much as a physical standpoint. I think that whenever he fought Lorraine, just going back to that fight again, I know I'm doing it to death, but anyone with a bit more punch, a bit belief in themselves than Lorena could have put Dubois out, I think, after they chopped in those first couple of times. I think it was as much to do with Dubois coming back and finishing him, or as also Lorena's sort of, the arse dropping out of him, coming forward and getting, a better fighter would have got the job done, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Lorraine, you got an injury in that fight, or allegedly?
Well, Dubois got the injury,
Dubois,
didn't he?
sorry, it was Dubois.
Yeah.
Sorry, I completely forgot about that. Yeah, so basically we had to get up and get on with it, mate. So that's what he done in the end. But I still think Miller's just all talk, mate. To be fair, to be honest, I've not seen him much since the comeback. Might have a bit of hand speed here and still, but all Dubois has really got to do, if he's don't want to take risks, he just keeps it long, jab, right hand, just keep Miller at the end of it. Doesn't really want to get tied up in the ropes. Doesn't want to allow Miller to kind of start haymakering or windmilling up and that type of thing. Go to kind of, doesn't want to cover up. Go to keep it disciplined and then just keep chipping away at him. It's 12 rounds. Keep chipping, and then I think maybe he could get Miller to gas, jab to the body upstairs, just drop a few body shots here and there, and just gradually wear at him. Yeah, I dare say he'll come in. What are you thinking here? 320, 330.
He came in 341, is his career heaviest against Bracamonte, but he was just coming back off his ban then, wasn't he? In his last fight, he was 333, so he slimmed down by about 8 pounds. Yeah, I think he'd be about 320.
Yeah, so still a big dude, but I could see Dubois just chipping away and probably win a points decision. I think once he gets about the mid half, I can maybe see Dubois maybe starting to just edge away. Just as I say, he doesn't need to take risks. Just needs to kind of make sure. Dubois is not a heavy guy. To be fair, but is he usually weighing in about these days? Let's check his previous weights. Am I saying to you?
Let's have a look.
230, 240.
240 kind of
240 mark in that. I mean, the thing is, that's 240 a muscle in that as well. It's no flab. Yeah, I think he'll be okay. Just got to believe himself, really. I know he kind of fell apart against Usyk a wee bit. But got to get back on the road here. Got to get back on the bike and start winning again. And if he doesn't win this fight, my God, it's not so much a road back, mate. It's a fucking long walk back to the fucking top if ever gets there.
A long haul flight back to the UK, you would imagine, Danny. Let's get on to the main two fights then and talk about them together, because obviously we're expecting if Joshua gets the job done, Wilder gets the job done, or whoever wins, they're going to hopefully fight around sort of Easter time. Anthony Joshua going in against Otto Wallin. Deontay Wilder going in 12 rounder against Joseph Parker. Bit of inactivity for Wilder there. Wallin, we've seen him turn up in the past and also not turn up at a lesser level. He's not going to get a better chance to pull off the upset than this one. Has Joshua still got it? Did Joseph Parker ever have it? So many questions, Danny, coming into these two fights.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one because so I was in London town yesterday having a few drinks with the old boys, and it was quite interesting because a few of them actually came up to me and said, "What's this Otto Wallin like?" And I said, "Well, I said he's all right, like I said, I've got to be honest, I fancy him against Joshua." And they went, "Oh, that's funny because I've had a few quid on him."
Ooh.
And I was like, "To do what?" And they were like, "Well, on both, on the points and the KO." Because I think one of the betting companies I looked at the other day, I think it was like he's like 12-1 to get the knockout or something like that. And I've got doubts about Joshua. I really have. Like, I know, he was poor in his last fight against the I've forgotten your man there. Bloody hell, the American guy, wasn't it? That Dillian White fought the fight.
Oh,
before.
Franklin,
that's the one. Yeah. He was poor in that fight, really poor. I thought so. Very gun shy, didn't really, and he took a lot of punches as well. Didn't need to, but took a lot of punches as well. I just think, like, Wallin's got it. He's got nothing to lose. Like, he really hasn't got nothing to lose. I think if you, again, like, it was funny because, like, again, I had a few of the old boys last night say to me, "Oh, I remember him fighting against Fury, you know, and cutting him up." And obviously, as some of you boys have said, you know, at that time, you know, another referee might have stopped that, you know, because the cut was that bad. So I'm hoping, they're hoping. I mean, the only downside to it is that it leaves it will leave Wilder short of a dance partner, because I can't imagine Joe Parker's going to do anything. I really can't. I think Joe Parker is on the decline. Don't get me wrong. He's been I think he's been a good professional for the heavyweight division. You know, he's actually fought some names as well. You know, he's actually got, you know, regardless of result, he's got a little resume there of some names. And yeah, he's just a nice guy. But it'd be wrong to see him kind of go out, you know, sprawled across the canvas like many of Wilder's opponents have in the past. But yeah, I think that's my only worry, is that Wilder potentially could be stuck without anyone to fight after this, because obviously if you've got Fury and Usyk, you know, waiting until February now to kind of clear that up, then where does that leave Wilder? Because there's not many other names outside of that. And I don't know, would he just take Wallin if Wallin beats Joshua? I don't know. I don't think that's a big enough name for him, and the money's not going to be there, I don't think. So it'll be an interesting one. I really do think it's an interesting one from the Joshua perspective. I think Wilder's fight is a bit of a walk in the park, and I expect him to kind of win by knockout within 6 for me. The Joshua one, I can't make any predictions on that, but I really do fancy Wallin to kind of put in some kind of performance, and I'll be disappointed if he doesn't.
Andy, I think it's best for the heavyweight division if we see old nice guy Joseph Parker sprawled out on the canvas. Deontay Wilder knocking people out. He's a dangerous Deontay, and that's the kind of Deontay I want to see. As for Wallin, he has it all in his hands to come forward. Has he got the devil? Will he be able to do enough? Will he be able to grasp this opportunity, let it slip? Not through any fault of his own necessarily against Tyson Fury. Second bite of the cherry for him. Do you think he'll be able to do enough?
Wallin, I don't believe so, mate. I think it comes down to belief with him also at the end of the day. I also believe a bit of belief needed by Joshua as well. I think he's looked obviously awful since the last Usyk fight, but Wallin as well, he is as good a the back foot fighter as he is. I just don't think he lets enough punches go. That Gaza fight, he did not need to allow it to kind of get that close in the cards, I don't think. Again, just a wee bit lack of belief, a wee bit lack of activity, I think, as well. But Joshua, just, again, another one just needs to kind of keep it straight shots. And I think Wallin would have serious issues. Wallin, I think, would need to take big risks. I just don't see him doing it. But again, you never know. Maybe on the night he might just decide to turn the script and that. But based off what I've seen him in the past, I think he's a very safe, cautious fighter. Technically very good, but I just don't think he's active enough. And I think it plays into Joshua's hands. So I think Joshua might have a wee bit of issue having to kind of follow him out the ring a little bit. So maybe it'd be interesting to see how he is at cutting off the ring. And Wilder, yeah, again, suspect to win by knockout. Not really going to base much off. He hasn't really fought since the Fury fight, has he? We're not really going to put any stock into the Hellenius knockout. So again, up to him what he's got left. But I suspect once he starts, kind of like, if he does start finding the range, kind of start catching Parker with some shots, I think it will just be a matter of time till he finds something sweet. And providing he's got no hand problems in camp, I suspect he'll probably win by knockout. I think he'll probably go rounds. Actually, I think he'll probably go past the midway point, and I think maybe that's when Wilder might start dropping the hammer a little bit.
Kaiser Koba says, agreed. Andy 100% was just about to say that. Wallin was very cautious in the Gassiev fight. It's not 2016 anymore, says Kaiser Koba. But would anyone here pick Wallin against the Joshua that fought Charles Martin? No, certainly wouldn't. Matty,
that was 12. The last Southpaw that Joshua ever beat, by the way.
Interesting. Yeah, he's had Southpaw trouble, hasn't he? Especially in those 24 rounds against Usyk. Prince Charles, no such trouble, Andy. Yeah, what do you think about that one? Would you back the Joshua who beat Charles Martin against Wallin?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would.
Absolutely. I'm just going through his record here, trying to find a southpaw. No him. Trying to see if Charles Martin.
Gary Cornish was a switch hitter.
Steve, I remember Charles Martin boxing Tom Dallas, and he came over here with a fantastic reputation, and that all got lost in translation when the way AJ beat him. But Charles Martin was always a good prospect.
No, he pulled his orthodox. Sorry, mate. On you go.
Go ahead, Des.
No, I was just saying, Charles Martin had a very good reputation coming up, and he came over here and boxed Tom Dallas and had a very good reputation, and it all got lost in translation because of the way he won his title, the way he beat. I forget the Russian kid's name.
Glashkov when his knee went.
Yeah. The way he beat Glashkov, the way they fought for that title, and the way they brought him over here for AJ to bash him up, it got lost in translation what a good fighter Charles Martin is. And I think we saw a really good version of Charles Martin losing against Gerald Anderson recently. I think Charles Martin's a good fighter, and if that AJ turns up that was on fire from Charles Martin to Povetkin, I think he beats Volin.
Mm-hmm. Well, Matty, that's a perfect transition. So come Saturday night, we've done our commentary. It's 12 o'clock, 12:30. Mrs. Wellington's raging because I'm still messing about on the microphone. What is an ideal scenario for you, Matty? All the fights have happened. Whoever's been knocked out has won. Whoever's been banged out has lost. What is the ideal scenario for you moving forward at the end of the day of reckoning, moving into boxing, Christmas Eve?
I think what everybody really wants is to make sure that AJ versus Wilder moves forward, right? And so for that to happen, Wilder and AJ have to win. But I'm not sure that's how it goes. AJ and the Southpaw Troubles. I mean, Alexander Usyk being an extremely elite Southpaw, but there is a lack of Southpaws on AJ's resume. I also worry about his ability to work when the guy's coming in close. And Wallin has shown that he can box a little bit too. It'll be interesting to see how that one goes. Wallin is just a little bit less than a 3-1, paying 3-1 right now. So, I think he's a good value pick potentially. But it's tough to say, and I'll harp on it. If Wallin tries to get in his chest, and AJ rediscovers his uppercut and recommits to it, I could definitely see Wallin get knocked out with an uppercut. But my lean is that Wallin should get the victory, but I don't think he gets the nod. I sense there could be a little fuckery afoot in Saudi Arabia on Saturday. And as far as Wilder goes, he's had some trouble with shorter fighters. I'm trying to remember the dude that he knocked out in the 9th round, the bald Polish guy.
Spilka.
Yeah, he gave him a little bit of troubles, but he was using some kind of funkier head movement, and I think he had better legs than Parker, who's only 31 years old, by the way. I thought Parker was way older than 31. He's been around forever.
It's quite mediocre, though, isn't he? I mean, he's okay. He's solid enough. He doesn't really do anything. Spilka, for all of his faults, was small. He was a mover, southpaw. He thought he was a little bit slippery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just don't know that necessarily Parker's going to bring any of that which gives Wilder troubles to the ring on Saturday. And I think the best bet that I'm seeing, I mean, obviously if you took Wilder by KO in rounds 1 through 6, probably getting better odds, but I just think the under 6.5 rounds in that fight stands out to me. I don't see Parker getting that far into the fight for some reason. So we'll see how it goes. I think controversial decision in AJ versus Wallin, and conclusive victory for Deontay Wilder.
Yeah, I think Volin will do okay for the first few rounds. It'll be interesting, and then Joshua will start getting the uppercut off, starting to hold him, hug him. I think it become quite messy, and Joshua will win on points in quite a bit of a damp squib towards the end of the fight. As for Wilder, I was going to just close by asking you, Des. I think the Wilder fight has the potential to get quite interesting. You know, he has been a 1-fight-a-year guy. For all intents and purposes, his last major test was the October 2021 fight, which was over 2 years ago now, against Tyson Fury. I know he was in action last October against Talanius, but the fight barely lasted 3 minutes. He's been inactive, Wilder. If he doesn't bang Parker out early on, I'm not saying he will necessarily struggle, but all of a sudden that inactivity could kind of catch up on him, and before you know it, he's getting dragged into a 7, an 8, a 9, a 10 round kind of fight that he doesn't want to be involved in.
Yeah, it's a good point. We've not seen a lot of prime activity from Wilder. I say the same about Fury as well. So our premier heavyweights have really had a very quiet 2 or 3 years going into their biggest fights or their pivotal fights. I think Wilder beats Parker because I think Parker is just perfect for Wilder. But I think it goes a lot longer than people think. I don't think Wilder flattens him early. I think Parker probably sticks Wilder on the back foot and makes him ask a few questions of him, as a lot of short fighters that have come forward have asked of Wilder. I think Wilder gets to him probably any time after 8, and I think he puts Parker to Kip. And if I can go back just briefly, Steve, I know you've got a schedule.
No.
Do any of the lads? I don't think Wallin beats AJ. I think he's gone a very passive Wallin, and I think AJ will have to come out and own this fight. But are any of you expecting a positive bounce like from Ben Davison? Are we expecting? Do we see a better version of AJ and a bounce from
100%,
Ben
mate.
Davison?
100%. Ben Davison does unrivaled work, mate. Honestly, he will.
I don't know as much as what the trainers can do these days. Des as AJ himself. I'm not sure about the bopping between trainers. I thought he would have better off sort of getting used to Derek James, maybe. Possibly Davison, for all of his faults, does have experience. He has been he was in the Fury corner, wasn't he, when he fought Volin back? So he will have up close and personal 12 rounds of seeing what he's all about. But Joey Gamache in Volin's corner as well, very good trainer. So it could be a battle of minds going on there, possibly out of the ring.
Sometimes you can be in the right place at the right time. You see it in football managers. And I think the whole McCracken thing it burnt itself out. Then the Angel Fernandez thing never quite fit. I think going out to Derek James wasn't a good move. It probably confused AJ. And I think Ben Davison might pull all that together and say, let's just go back to basics. Let's keep it very simple, very straight. Let's keep throwing punches. Let's keep our chin down. And I think that version of AJ, the one that Rob McCracken had, which was a real basic heavyweight who could throw punches in bunches, hold centre ring, keep his chin down. I think that's a good version of AJ, and I think that AJ beats volume.
Chris Butler there, Des, just quickly saying, I don't think it matters who's in AJ's corner now. AJ, don't listen.
AJ is fragile, and he's a hard. I totally understand what Chris is saying, and look, AJ is ready to go. But I just can't see Volin or Parker upsetting the boxing ecosystem. It's going to be eventually AJ and Wilder, and them two, the winner fights the winner of Usyk. And I mean, there's an awful lot of hundreds of millions of pounds involved here. And I just don't think Volin and Parker are the fighters to upset all that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I know Danny wanted to make a point, Danny. AP says, can you imagine the absolute philosophical waffling shite going on between AJ and Ben? Danny's disappeared now. What's coming to you, Danny? I was trying to get there. Des has set it up nicely for me, he says, and then Danny got iced off the call, unfortunately. We'll hopefully try and get him back in again. Matty, which do you think is going to be the fight of the night? Competitiveness, knockout, someone coming back from the brink? Who do you think is going to steal the show? There's a potential for a few stinkers, I think.
I honestly think that Dubois versus Miller is going to be the best fight of the show. 100%.
Dubois versus Miller, says Matty.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah? Do you think so, Des, as well, yeah?
I just think it's the most, it can go one of both ways. And I think I've sussed Wilder and Parker, and I think I've got AJ and Volin. And we know Bivol and Arthur. I think Opataya wins. Matty called Caballel just how I would have seen it. And I think this is the only anomaly of the whole show. We don't quite know what Dubois is going to turn up. We don't quite know what Miller's going to turn up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think Bivol against Arthur will look pretty similar to Bivol against Craig Richards, probably. Go on, Danny. Final point to you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yes, obviously, you're all sitting out there thinking, well, if Wilder does his job and Joshua does his job, then it's a match made. Well, let's remind ourselves here, right? I can see it now. Well, Cougs, we've offered 80-20 because it's the Joshua that the fans want to see. It's not really Wilder and all that. So let's look. The geezer's had about fucking 10 years to put that fight together, and it hasn't happened then. So let's just take that into account right now. Yeah, I know there's some money behind it, backing it. But it's these personalities getting in the way, making it like it's their fight as opposed to the fighter's fight. So I wouldn't be too sure about it yet.
First time though, Danny. In 10 years, Hearn's he's backed really to the wall now. He has to.
Well, he's
put on
got no
good fights.
choice, has he? Because he's got no, he can't make a deal, so he's going to have to let other people do deals for him. So yeah.
And plus, he's lost his headliner for Liverpool, Scout Lomachenko, getting knocked out.
Andy, you're a hater, man. It says there on the screen. Look, Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. Terms agreed for heavyweight fights, says promoter Eddie Hearn. That was back on the 10th of September, man. So imagine all the time he's had to put it together behind the scenes since then.
Is that 10th of September 1997, was it?
We're 2 weeks away, mate. We're 2 weeks away.
2 weeks to flatten the curve, Eddie.
2 weeks to flatten the curve, mate. We're just going underneath the second lockdown when the fucking fight was supposed to be getting made. That wanker. As Des says and Danny says, he's under pressure to make his fights. So the comments were quite clear when the press conference for this card was actually announced. That Eddie was quite clear that he was told, get your shit together, get these fights made. Your Excellence, Assalamu Alaikum, decided he wants these fights, and His Excellency got those fights, and Eddie had to do what he was fucking told, or was he was stoned to fucking death. Evening, Ed.
Evening, Eddie. We know you're listening in. No doubt Eddie will be tuning in as well to Boxing Day. I'm doing this off the cuff, Matty. I haven't spoken to the boss woman yet, but I'm thinking that if things go well between Inoue 25-0 and Morrell and Tapales 37-3, then we might do a post-fight pod on Boxing Day afternoon. But as I said,
XME for next week's live show, mate.
Well, flip me. I'm not going to give them a shout out. Fucking useless. But yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully so. Oh, okay, Andy. We'll go for you first of all. Then Inoue Tapales, all the marbles on the line. IBF, WBA, WBC, WBO on a nice afternoon. USA, ESPN Plus. It should be a good time for us. About what? 1 o'clock, 1:30, something like that.
Midday for us at least, mate. I'm looking forward to it. Mainly, obviously, for the main event. I think this is going to really catch fire. Like, I mean, you've got a southpaw against an orthodox. Tapales is generally quite aggressive, isn't he? I mean, I'm basing it off his last fight at Medallion. He was definitely aggressive on the front foot, throwing loads of shots. You just wonder as well with Inoue's speed and power and that. I think it's set up for Tapales, who's, if he is aggressive, I could maybe see Inoue just counter him with something right down the middle with a right hand like he did fucking Fulton. And once he gets you on the hook, mate, it could be a good night. And I'm maybe thinking Inoue can maybe do this inside 4 or 5 rounds, to be fair. Because if Tapales comes out looking for him, I think Inoue will find him, and he'll find him pretty quick with that right hand. And once he feels that power, that could be it, and it could be very quick in that. So definitely going to be big on Inoue next week, mate, without doubt. Sorry, 2 weeks. Is it 2 weeks? 26 is it Boxing Day? So
yeah, about 10 days or so.
Aye, something like that. So aye.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, Danny. We'll bring you in on this one. I know you are a massive Inoue fan. You've seen him up close and personal as well. I think it'll go a bit longer than Andy thinks, because I reckon Tapales is going to be a little bit more negative. I'm not pretending to be any kind of expert on seeing this guy fight, but I have watched bits and pieces of footage, and he's good at what he does, but he is quite hittable. And if you're hittable against Inoue, that is a problem straight off. I think he'll go into his shell, look to be negative early on, because if he comes out firing and trying to go toe-to-toe, I don't think he's the puncher he thinks he is. And Inoue has shown that his judgment of distance, of range, his ability to take a shot is second to none, really. And he's moving up the weights and he's still blitzing people. I think Tapales will be tough. He might be better than people think, because we're all expecting him to come in and get knocked out now as part of the course. But he's a good fighter. Showed against Akhmadaliev. He's a good world-class fighter. But Inoue is another level. And if you're hittable against the monster, you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, obviously, Steve, I don't want to say a great too much. Obviously, I've done you a little article to put out at some point.
Going out tomorrow, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I've said plenty there, but Inoue, there's levels, and Inoue is another level. Like I genuinely think like we are watching something that is like we're watching someone that is going to go down in history as one of the best. Like I genuinely think that. Apart from moments in that Donaire fight, I haven't seen him troubled at all. And I just think just love how he works things out. Like, the Butler fight. I mean, if Tapales wants a blueprint to try and ruin it in the evening, then watching Joe Gallagher's set up it might be perfect. The way to kind of extend the fight, not necessarily to win it, but to extend the fight. I go back to what Andy just said, to be honest with you. Like, I just think Tapales, because he's a come forward kind of, loves to wing some shots and things like that. I just think he's made for Inoue. I really do. I just think Inoue's fast hands, his quick feet. I just think he's made for him, and I genuinely can't see this going past 5. I think it's yeah, I just think there's levels. I think Inoue's great, and I just think he's gonna win this fight and then move up another weight because he just wants greatness, doesn't he? And you can't knock him for that. It's brilliant to see. But yeah, like I say, I'm looking forward to it. I hope Inoue does the job, and I look forward to seeing where his career goes next. But yeah, it's going to be great.
It's going to be great, Matty. Let's see what the boys in the chat are saying here. Kaiser Koba says, I think Inoue's power was so apparent when Fulton shelled up within a minute. Chris Butler says, could Inoue BAM happen, or is there a bit of weight between them? I think he's going to be campaigning at 114. Inoue's at 122, so you're looking the sort of £8. Not on it so much within the lower weights. I don't think their paths will clash. Kaiser Koba says, agree completely. Not a great style matchup. He wins in 4 or 5 rounds. I think that's the problem, isn't it? I think all Tapales can do is sort of hold back and shell up defensively because he is quite a come forward guy. As I said before, he gets hit a lot, which are recipes for disaster against Inoue. He calls himself the Nightmare Tapales. I can see him having an absolute nightmare and his face just being smashed to bits. It's hard to give him a chance, really, for a unified champion, but I just don't see where he's going to get the job done here.
As you say, mate, I think it's now a matter of it's how he approaches the fight. If he's aggressive, like I said, and he's letting his hands go, I think he can get countered right down the middle. I just think it's a clash of styles, stances, and that as well. Southpaw, orthodox, and as you mentioned, once if Inoue does get that right hand rapier speed right down the middle, he'll quickly leap in behind the left hook or another right hand, and before Tapales knows it, he's on his arse, and it's like count to 8, and he can't get up, and that's what's going to happen.
Andy,
if he's negative, then I can see it go round. Sorry, mate, on you go.
No, I was just going to say, my understanding is that the only time Tapales has been knocked out is against, is it Ryosuke
Iwasa, yeah.
Iwasa, yeah.
And am I right in thinking Iwasa has some slight similarities to Inoue in terms of speed, footwork, hand? You know what I mean? Like, I just wonder whether that might play a factor as well, like that he's fought someone similar and actually lost.
Didn't he have a retirement loss as well at some point? Or am I... Hang on, let me see if... I haven't got his record up here.
Tapales has been stopped twice.
Yeah.
He'll beat off TG Don
here we are.
Sure.
2009.
Lee Haskins beat him as well.
No, did I? Don't think so.
Right. No, Haskins didn't beat him.
No, that was...
Iwasa.
Oh, Iwasa. No, sorry, I'm talking about Tapales again, Andy. He has a retirement
Tapales.
Loss in 2009, but he was way down in weight.
Sorry, I thought I heard the name Iwasa get put. No, Danny was talking. You're not talking about Iwasa there, mate. Talking in terms of similarities.
Iwasa beat Tapales, didn't he? Knocked him out.
Aye.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's similarities between Iwasa and Inoue to a small degree. In terms of, like I said, like it's that Japanese style of like being quick in and out, fast hands. Like I don't know.
No, I mean, I'm just purely basing it off that Madali fight at Tapales when he was, as I says, he was on the front foot early doors. I just think if he is like that, he's although especially his lead hand, but he's obviously would be jab hand, he would be trying to bring it down the kind of like downward motion as well, like kind of hooking type effect. I think if you start telegraphing that, and I think if Inoue starts timing him, it's just a matter of time. I think, yeah. But as Steve says, if he is negative, it will go rounds without doubt. But if he is coming out uber aggressive, he's getting picked off pretty quick as well, in my opinion.
Matty, I think as far as Inoue is concerned, he would obviously fight anybody, but Tapales has come around at a nice time for him. Ironically, I know Tapales beat Akhmadaliev. The scores were strange, 115, 113 times 2, and then a 118, 110 in Akhmadaliev's favour. I'm sure I watched that fight, can't remember too much about it, but having seen Akhmadaliev again last night, albeit against much lesser opposition, would Akhmadaliev give Inoue a better fight, as strange as this sounds? I think the way he punches, the way he fights, the way he puts his shots together, I think he'd be more competitive than Tapales, which I know is really mean-spirited thing to say about Tapales' chances.
No, I think you're right, and I think Tapales put it in an exceptional performance that night, and Akhmadaliev was just flat. So he might have given Inoue a better fight, at least on paper. It would seem that way. You'd think that this is tailor-made for Inoue. Tapales has fought at lower weights, so he's not exactly fighting a bigger guy necessarily as he makes his jump up the scales. But so I think this, obviously could be just another routine walk in the park, KO 3-4 kind of thing. but you never know. Tapales is obviously a man on the mission. He's on a hot streak. And I got to say, if somehow he managed to pull that off, I'm saying your fighter of the year for 2023 is Marlon Tapales.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For me, wouldn't begrudge him that. Michael Thompson says Inoue does the basics pretty much perfectly. It's nothing flashy, just excellent boxing and technique. David Palmer, he's got money spewing out of his back pockets again. He's thrown another tenner in. He says, come on then, this chat needs to be worth the money eventually. Spilled red wine everywhere. Any tips? P.S. Inoue smokes everybody at 126.
Personally, he's like by himself, keeping the lights on for the asylum here. We appreciate you, David.
Absolutely. That's the thing, isn't it, Des? We all expect him to get past Tapales, so obviously it's a possible banana skin, could take his eye off the ball, etc. I don't think he will. But the trouble is, once he gets these belts, he's not going to want to defend them, is he? So the only way is literally up. He's just going to keep on climbing through the weights until he finds a weight class where they're too big for him and he can't knock them out with one punch. Other than that, where does the challenge come from?
Where did the challenges come from? I thought Fulton was going to offer something. I thought Fulton was going to be in that fight. But Inoue was a monster, and Fulton realised in the first round, I can't win this fight. And I think Tapales will discover that too. He's already been stopped twice, lost 3. I think Inoue dominates anyone up to featherweight, and I think after that, it's about picking the right ones. But I think Tapales gets stopped 6 or 7, halfway.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's just too easy to hit. I mean, you look up at feather there, Des, just pretty quickly. You have got some sizable guys. Brandon Figueroa's knocking about. Don't know when he'll fight again. Ray Vargas is a big guy. Espinoza, who beat Ramirez there, is an absolute freak size-wise. Nick Ball against Inoue. You can imagine those two going in up against each other. Lopez as well. Stylistically, there's some quite interesting options there, isn't there?
Yeah, really good names, recognisable names, and there's some really good fights amongst the ones I'm looking at. I think... yeah, I agree. But I think Inoue beats all these guys. I think none of these guys have got what it takes to stay with an Inoue. I think you're touching on what you asked me earlier. I think the real challenges come when his power is matched with other people's size, and then we have to see something different. I say the same about Tank. We have to find them at a weight where it all levels off a bit. At the moment, I don't think anyone can hang with Inoue.
Yep, completely agree. Someone could hang with David Palmer. Kaiser Koba's come in as a generational rival. He's also thrown in a 10-0. Tomorrow is payday, he says. As per Canelo. Right, I'll throw the floor open to anybody else if they want to say anything about, Tapales, Inoue, any of the other fights over the weekend. If not, we'll move on to Value of the Week. Open your mics and say your piece now. If indeed you want to, gentlemen, it's completely free.
I just want to say, I think if Inoue wins this, I think he's my fighter of the year, and he is pound for pound number 1.
Yep, wouldn't disagree with that. Anybody else want to throw anything in?
I'd like to touch on something just briefly, Steve. I never said it earlier. I think Bam's body work, his inside work, was absolutely the best I've seen in a long, long time. He throws these short-range body shots, but they're almost like corkscrew body shots, so he can turn them from body shot to uppercuts. And the work he done last night against Sonny Edwards, I think he might be the best body puncher in boxing at the moment.
Quite the praise. Love a good body shot myself. And sometimes the refs are a little bit fussy, aren't they? Trying to tell them to keep them up, but I think all the body shots are absolutely on point. From Bam, right, lads, then we'll move on, I think, unless anybody else has anything they want to add in. We've done the talking to death. We do. Matty, do you just want to say something quickly before we go on to Belly of the Week? About the Day of Reckoning next Saturday evening, any expectations? Well, keep your expectations low, I would say, would be the main point.
Yeah, absolutely. Number one, we're offering this as a potentially free service. If you would like to kick in, we would obviously appreciate it, but don't judge too harshly. But we'll be coming on, about an hour earlier than we normally kick off this show. So what would that be? 7 o'clock your time, Steve?
Yes.
7 o'clock. Yeah, we'll get on. I'm thinking that'll make it so that we catch the Miller and Dubois fight, and pretty much everything up from there. And we're just going to be doing some play-by-play. We'll keep the televisions muted, keep their opinions out of it, and we'll try to give you the Boxing Asylum special and call it down the line with our own flavor. So if you are interested in watching the fights and having us as your commentary team. Go ahead and check us out. Find us out where you normally catch us on a live stream, and we will be there at about 7 o'clock in UK, and that would be let's see here, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, United States.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Matthew. We look forward to it. Let's move on to the Bellew of the Week then for episode 553. Andy's here, Matty's here along with me, Steve, Des and Danny are here. Stick around, boys, if you wish. If not, then thank you for your contribution. It's going to be to everybody, Andy. We're going on the main channel, aren't we, Matty? Isn't that right? For the blow by blow?
Yes, sir.
Everybody has a chance. Thank you to His Excellency, says David Palmer, for allowing this to happen. Exactly. Ames says post-fight pod. Well, it's a during-fight pod. I don't know about the post-fight pod. I think we'll be going about 5 hours by that point. I guess
Steve,
we'll find out.
Is it worth one of us actually sharing a stream so we haven't got Andy 5 minutes ahead of everyone else and stuff like that? That's normal.
I think me and Steve's using the same site actually next week.
Okay.
That could be a car crash.
Yeah, it might not even appear until like to the main event.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we need a post-fight pod, says Ames. Yeah, I guess we'll find out, boys. I'm not sure. If we can first of all manage to watch the fight legally, of course, then that'll be the starting point, and then we'll just take it from there. Chris Butler's thrown in $4.99. He says, great pod. I'm assuming he's talking about this one. Who knows? Could be talking about another podcast. But we'll move on. I haven't got anything lined up for Bellew of the Week 553 regarding the intro. So let's find something quickly here, shall we? The original Bellew of the Week theme. That sounds as good as any. Let's play that then.
Let's be totally and brutally honest here. Sean Corbin makes Valerie Brudov look like Ivan Drago. It's as simple as that. He's beat what's in front of him tonight. He faces me. He's going to visit mental demons again. And let's get something straight. Come to me, mate. You come to me. Next time, ain't no judges going to be needed. I'm going to do worse than Kovalev. I am going to do worse than Kovalev.
On Saturday night, mate, you better hold it together. I'm going to smash it near you to pieces, mate. I'm going to hit him. When he gets in the ring and we get 10-ounce gloves on, I'm going to smash his head to bits. I'm going to do it November the 30th against all odds. No matter what people say, the journalists write what you want. All as I'll say is tune back in and then look at me on December the 1st when I am world champion. It's as simple as that.
I'm willing to die in that ring. It's as simple as that. I am willing to die. I'm willing to die, Zachary. Is he?
You're fucking right. Classic Tony, dragging him back out. He's out the jungle now and he's back in civilization. I love it, Andy. The old theme tune for Bellew of the Week.
Yeah, it's good stuff. You could see the Tony out the jungle. By the way, can I just say something, right? See how these women tend to like watch these fucking reality shows and that. This woman I work with come in and says, "Oh, I've got a bit of a crush on Tony Bellew." I'm like, oh, fucking hell! Hope your fucking car has an accident on the way up the road. Then fucking hell,
Mr. Vacant Belt.
Oh my word! He says, "Why?" He says, "Oh, I don't know." He says, "He's just got that." I says, "Oh, fucking, I'm away for a cup of coffee, man. Can't listen to this pitch anymore."
It's as simple as that. Believe you me. Let's move on then. Sonny Edwards was back on Twitter. Loves a bit of Twitter, or X as they call it these days. He says, "Yo, Bam beat my ass," and Liam Freeman jumped in and said, "Chin up, brother. It was one of the most entertaining bouts of the year. Only elevates your global brand." They are, Matty. Hitting stateside, Sonny's global brand has been elevated in defeat.
Absolutely, and it's interesting to see somebody who's trying to challenge Caleb Plant for the blackest man in boxing too.
Well, did end up with a black eye. Done his best, didn't they?
Fucking hell.
Doesn't get the date with the quote though, Andy. That's the problem.
He's fucking just as well, mate. He's just as well. That's a whole lot of women he doesn't want to be handling.
The quote would knock him
I suppose. Fucking Jesus, man.
He might be able to knock the quote out if the footage that we saw during the week is anything good, boy.
Well, aye, but I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I was laughing. I was just laughing. I was watching Boxing News' interview with Sonny Edwards, and somebody put a comment in it. It says that UKI resistance though. Aye, how many? That's about 4 or 5 hour fighters now. It's been absolutely smashed. Smashed at the bones and that as well.
Getting smashed in the eyes. It's not good. DAZN rank the all-time scariest boxers. They are a bit of a troll, aren't they? DAZN. Valuev, Liston, Tyson, Holyfield, Hopkins, Duran, Dillian White.
I tell you what, if you ask Uncle Elvis, by the way, it would be fucking B-Hop.
He's class, isn't he? DAZN, man, flip me. What was going on with that?
Isn't it Clifford Etienne who was in jail for killing a guy?
Yeah.
Oh, Clifford Etienne, yeah, that's right. You know, he was in jail, wasn't he, for years for robbing? Didn't he rob armed robbery? And then he come out, fought Tyson, made all that money, and then decided he loved the jail life that much. I think he's back in again for the rest of his life now.
I think so. I think he might have killed a guy, and that's why he's in again. Maybe I'm wrong. I just maybe might just be a guy with a lengthy criminal record, but that's a name from the past.
Just killed a guy, man. Flip me. People are harsh these days, aren't they? Poor old Clifford Etienne can't get a break. Yep. Matty agrees.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it. I'm holding my tongue by me. Oh, fuck, I'm not saying it.
There's one for you, Matty. The big man, Nigel Farage, with Derek Waters over. I'm not sure what's going on with that picture or not, but they seem like they're having fun. That's the main thing.
I don't know what the fuck is going on here. And I don't like this timeline at all. Fucking stop the world and let me off, all right?
Oh, which is always good value in your man, flip me. Here we are, talking about good value, Danny. I know you're a Sky Sports fan. Our boxer mascot can't get enough of a rocking Bournemouth. I can't remember what you call this guy, but I'll tell you what, boxing's dead, isn't it, man? Kill the sport now.
No, it's good to see Shannon Courtney come out of retirement, to be honest with you. So she's nice. She's looking well there. She's looking well. So, yeah, good. Fair play to her. Fair play. You know what I mean?
With a filter on as well.
Who let the dogs out?
Boring Ben Shalom. He's doing his best. John Fury, tip of the iceberg. Tyson Fury's father, John, arrives at court with pair accused of dodging £82,000 tax bill. Barry Puma says, dirty, disgusting man. But then Undisputed Fury jumps in with a bit of a defence there. He says, right too. Everyone paying far too much tax, cost of living crisis, price of everything's doubled overnight. Prices on everything gone through the roof.
Oh, fucking bollocks, man. Move to Scotland, you can't about fucking tax bills, man. Fuck me. You English cunts are fucking alright. You come up here and you'll care about fucking tax. Fucking, I'm gonna get me started, man. I'm telling you.
I'm just interested to find out, like, you know, when they actually find out that money was on John Fisher's Chinese bill and not a tax bill. So yeah.
I've heard from John Fisher lately, actually. People do send me videos of him, but I've kind of got fed up now because the John Fisher train has well and truly stopped.
Oh, so you haven't got that video that someone put in the chat this week? It was.
I don't
superb.
think so. No.
Oh, what a shame. Never mind.
Sorry.
The train has stopped because it's over its weight limit.
Exactly.
He's just a fat guy. He's just a fat guy who sits on Instagram and eats Chinese. That's his own words, actually. So maybe dried up. Maybe the Chinese is about out of business.
I'm probably
the prices are going up, mate. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, too much tax. Royal Boxing says he's talking about Ben against Haney. He says, I think Ben would struggle down the stretch, but early on, you cannot deny Ben is lightning fast and could catch Haney. And yeah, I do believe Ben hits hard. This is not a mismatch. Let's not be silly.
Shut the fuck up, man. Can you imagine Haney coming up on an additional £7 and fighting Conor Ben? Fuck's sake. I mean, I forget who it was I was reading that. I think Haney put on something like £24 overnight.
Right. Yeah.
He must have been, what would have been he? But what, 160-ish?
It was 165 on fight.
Is it 165?
Fucking, that's middleweight territory, man. That's crazy weight, mate. Can you imagine him going to 147? They would fucking ruin Ben. Make it happen.
Yeah. Let's see him fight Con.
Fucking mismatch. Fuck, Jesus.
Well, there he is. There's Ben. Boxing Social saying, listen to Frank Warren's full interview on Spotify. And Connor jumped in and says, don't give it the big one now because you found someone to finally pay your fighters on time, you fish-eyed prick. So, beat to the end the bush from Conor Ben there, going in on Frank, Andy, man. It's a bit harsh, isn't it, there?
Uncle Frank will be sitting, just keep my mental note of that one.
I think it got deleted, apparently.
Well, I did it. I'm surprised now, because Uncle Frank, as you know, mate, will have allegedly have the legal team on retainer. Just press that, press 9 for an outside call. No problem, pal. Smithers, release the hounds.
Got Windows 95 fired up for that word processor to get that letter written.
He's still using carbon paper, mate.
Yeah, probably.
He's fucking...
Giving him the pink slip.
Amish boy. Pen and paper time.
Oh, dear.
Get this floppy disk to the postal carrier. Post haste.
Oh, Frank. We love Frank on this show. Tony Bellew has moved into a different territory now. Tony Bellew posts cryptic video about fake friends after I'm a Celeb feud claims. Awkward. There's OK Magazine who are jumping in on Tony's life now.
Oh, mate, I'll buy this one 25 grand, please. Cha-ching.
Leave him alone. Jesus
Well, leave him alone.
Christ.
He's playing the game. He's doing the grift. Earning that corn.
Disappeared into OK Magazine, as you do.
Then he's watching it now.
No,
My daughter gave up on it after like 2 episodes.
No, I ain't watching that shit, man. I don't watch any telly, but I definitely ain't
I'm
watching
the
that.
same, mate. I fucking... No telly for me either.
I barely watched Bellew when he was boxing. I'm not going to watch him on I'm a Celebrity. Anyway, here you are, Matty. Breaking. Weed Boxing Championship to return to Koh Samui. Its first edition was cancelled at the last minute by Thai authorities who shit themselves clearly. The promotion is back at it again, saying there will be new announcements in its own words soon. Where weed was legalized in Thailand in 2022, blah, blah, blah. The controversial event has attracted worldwide attention thanks to its unique concept where fighters get high before stepping into the ring, Matty. It got called off, but it's back on again, apparently.
Well, I can probably add, if we want to get Matty over there to contest in it, I can probably set out some merchandise for him just to make him look the part.
Matty 100% wins that, by the way.
I think that I absolutely have what it takes to compete in this, and I'm disappointed that they canceled the first one. But let's see how this whole thing goes. I think they ought to be lenient on it. I mean, let's be honest. This is a country whose national sport consists of repeatedly kicking your opponent in the shins. So, let people get high and punch each other. What's the big fucking deal?
The great thing is, man, you be gassed after like 40 seconds, and that's when it's like it comes down to instantly the battle of the hardcore. Who's willing to sacrifice?
You sit on your stool in between rounds and get fed like what's-its and stuff.
Have a puff and that, Munchies, man. Yeah, fucking munch.
Matty could be undisputed at 135, says MB. I don't think you're making
if you
135.
cut off, cut off my left leg.
No, mate, you're talking 1,135.
235. Poor Matty. We support him.
Is that grams? Is it 135 grams? Is it?
What was Eddie saying there?
Cutting 135 nice and easy. Eddie slid into Javonta's DMs. He said, "Let's talk." Davis says, "No," and then took a screenshot.
Fantastic. Getting told where to go. I'd imagine that's what he tried with Robert Smith. Robert Smith says, "Speak to your lawyer, Eddie."
Mm-hmm.
Talk to you.
Javonta did doing the Lord's work this week, wasn't he? Like, he was probably going in on Eddie and a few others as well.
He's going in on Ben as well. There we are. There's Connor. He says, "Don't mention me, Javonta, and your little crossfire, you little dwarf woman beater." He got roid rage, and he con. But hey, man, he's raging this week. Going in on little Javonta.
Excellent comeback.
Says D-Mac, I know.
But then how's he not fighting Boots? Boots is still waiting for an opponent. Why is Ben not calling it Boots?
That'd be an absolute massacre. I wouldn't be averse to that fight. Should make it happen.
I'd be doing for that. I'd pay for that. I'd like to see that.
Stanionis? Bit of Stanionis as well?
Yeah, bit of Stanionis. Wouldn't mind that either. Virgil Ortiz is returning next month.
Nah, I can't trust Ortiz, mate, to stay fit at this point.
Yeah, he's been out for 2 years. That's right.
Boots, Stanionis, but we'll probably get killed. Brook or something.
Beterbiev. Catch weight with Beterbiev. Yeah. Wouldn't mind seeing that.
Beterbiev at 135. Oh, hey, this is
Mr. Shields reacts to leaked spying footage of male boxer bopping her.
See this, right? I actually, there's an interview with the trainer of that is Artem. I forget the guy's name at this point. It was a Ukrainian. There it is, Arthur Ametovs or something like that. So this trainer, is it Derek Santos?
Derek Santos, yeah.
He came out, detailed response and that. Very measured, actually, in his response. The GOAT has since deleted the tweet saying that the padding had been removed and all that shit. So clearly the lawyers have been on the phone. He ain't interested in having a verbal sit down face to face, as he says himself, kept it quite measured. And he says clearly from previous events, obviously relating to that time when, what was the old boy's name? He got smashed up.
Oh yes,
James Ali Bashir, was it?
James Ali Bashir, yeah.
He got a down off one of Shields' team. Then you've had Unk smashing up someone in the corner as well. So yeah, clearly a complete mess. And basically, our man Santos has went to the boxer here and says, "Look, why did you do it? Why did you release the video?" He says, "I'm fucking fed up of her talking shit, saying she could beat Keith Furman and all these men and stuff like that. So I just decided to put it out there, shut her up." And yeah, great to see. So I mean, come on, can you imagine Keith fucking Furman landing that left hook on Clarissa Shields, man? Fucking, you bet the morgue.
genuine question: how difficult is it to remove padding from a glove? Like, it must be fucking difficult, right?
Well, the
Without
guy
ruining the glove.
No, it's not difficult. But what we'll say is the guy explained about the gloves that were there. The gloves were checked. There was people in that gym from her team. So as I says, he clearly matched. He said, look, the gloves were there. They could have been inspected. There were 16-ounce gloves because she had apparently mentioned the gloves after she got dropped, and they got showed to the team there were normal 16-ounce sparring gloves. I think the spar before that was apparently a foam. So he'd actually used 2 different sets of gloves over a couple of days. The first one was quite amateur gloves, which were quite padded, but the other ones were, I think, pro sparring gloves. But there were legalized 16-ounce gloves, which are meant to be in sparring.
As you say, and I watched that interview with your man Artas Ametovs there, and there was no mincing his words, were there? He was getting straight to the point and just saying, "Nah, this is what happened," and that was it. So yeah.
Well, she's always boasting about knocking out men in sparring and stuff. So I mean, if it's good enough for her to be banging people left, right, and centre, Matty, I suppose, and she has got that one knockout on her record, so you can well believe she's banging out men in sparring.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, what evidence do we have to the contrary to say that she couldn't last 12 rounds with Keith Thurman and possibly win when he ran Manny Pacquiao close? I mean, that's obviously got to be the case.
There's a good one, Matty. Do you reckon she would beat Jake Paul?
No.
What about Andre August? I think she beat him.
I mean,
50-50.
You got to be a complete physical specimen of a woman to. I mean, like Ann Wolfe would I dare say set something.
You have to be able to punch to keep the guy off you, right? Like that's like square one, basically.
It's completely different, mate. It's just fucking hell. I mean, as I say, I've never seen our man fight here, obviously the Ukrainian, but just based off that left, the whole technique of it was just perfect. And apparently, the guy said, our man Santos, Danny, I don't know if Steve, you listened to it as well. He says the hardest thing for me as a trainer to do is to get the male fighter to work. So it's just basically, did he go in there and fucking blast her out? Work with her, show her things, and try to let her work on things with you and that. And there was a couple of times she was loading up shots and that, probably fancying herself, and he decided, fuck this, man, just put her back in their box. It happens in sparring, so, yeah, it's just great to see, actually, because she's just been right off the deep end. Apparently, this didn't happen recently. This happened years ago, apparently.
Oh, right, okay.
So
3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yes, this isn't new. This is happened way back because the guy who's done it, Ukrainian guy, Santos has had to try and locate him in Europe. That's where he's based. He said to go through contacts and try and find the guy to get in contact. Why do you do it? That type of thing. And this is what's happened. It's old footage. And she's then come out and started with all the accusations and that. And the guy said, listen, that's my reputation. I've trained world. He trained. I think he's trained Alan Green. I think he worked with Sullivan Barrera as well, and that. So the guy's worked at a fucking a top level. And she's coming out with fucking statements like that. That casts fucking doubts. Boxing's a fucking it's a niche area. It's a close community, and people start talking. That could affect his fucking business. She's not right to be opening their mouth like that. So they want to
accusations, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's managed to get herself on the Bellew of the Week list, so at least that's an accomplishment for her this week. Anything else to add to that one, Andy, from you? That's all the ones I've got.
Maybe just that one for our pal Elvis, mate. Elvis Grant, who absolutely shot himself after spitting in 72-year-old.
Is he from Grant Gloves? Is that where he's from?
I believe he's the son of the owner.
Yeah.
I believe. So
well,
anyway,
very strange, wasn't it, the whole thing?
I don't know what's happened again anyway, but Hopkins has got heated, man. He's wanting to go to the streets. He's wanting to take it Philly.
Samson was raging, wasn't he?
He was, mate. Fucking Hopkins was getting into fucking Mendoza for the WBA. He's like, you seen this shit?
Mm-hmm.
And then, fucking just incredible stuff. Like, just complete scummy behaviour, mate. Don't know what's caused it. And then one for I don't know if Matchroom finally followed through it, but Sonny Edwards was tweeting during the weekend that earlier in the week that apparently Matchroom were expecting to get him courtside seats for one of the games.
Oh, basketball or something.
He's a basketball fan, Sonny Edwards, but I don't know what game it was. So I don't know if he got his tickets and that.
He did get his tickets.
Did they get them?
Andy, and to be fair to him, Andy, if he's not in the first row, everything else would have been obstructed view.
Especially where I it would, anyway.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Eddie's welched on bets before with Rob Tebbit and that, so I'm just wanting to make sure he got his just dues, that's all.
Did you see the video of, like, they announced him over the big screen, said, we got, world champion boxer Sonny Edwards here, and he's like turning around and waving, and everyone's just sat there going, who?
Like when Ebbs turns up.
What game was it?
We've got a special div kid on the court right now. Give him a wave.
What game was it, Matty?
It was a Phoenix Suns basketball game. And it was, I don't know, that's pretty embarrassing to go in there and get announced as a world champion looking like a kid with cancer and get less applause than a kid with cancer. It's fucked up.
Fuck's sake.
As if he thought his weekend couldn't get any worse. Any others, Andy?
That's it for me, mate, I think.
Enjoy a courtside.
Oh, fucking hell.
Oh, dear.
Quickly, just Scouse Lomachenko actually as well.
That was a good one. Matty, anything from you, please?
Oh, and Chris Colbert getting completely.
Oh, yes.
I think I got to stick with the Sonny Edwards Bam Rodriguez fight and go back to all the shit that Edwards was talking about. Bam being part of Victor Conte's snack team of nutrients and performance supplements and things of that nature, and he was talking about that all week. And what does Bam's team do on fight night? They all come out in their fucking snack shirts. What a fucking troll.
Danny, have you got anything to throw in, please?
Yeah, a few. The first one's the excellent promo video for the 23rd's fight night, where they're all zombies. I just think that's that was quite funny. And they really tried to stitch Frank Warren over there by sticking him in the van next to Deontay Wilder, but then like having Eddie Hearn's name crop up in the promo video before Frank Warren's is. So that was I find that quite amusing. What else have we got? Obviously, I quite like that Sonny Edwards looked like a survivor from car crash, and he looked like a thingy from one of your man's car crashes the other night. He
looked like Errol Spence's passenger.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's what. Sorry, I couldn't get my words out. But yeah, he looked like an Errol Spence passenger in a car crash. He was fucking brilliant. And then that video. I know Big John Fisher's kind of gone away a little bit, but someone posted a video of him in the Nuthouse chat saying, you get two types of kind of big people. Some people they just they can't help it. It's for other circumstances, and other people just sit there and eat like the thing. So yeah, he knew who he was. He was the latter as opposed to but yeah, no. Other than that, mate, no. Fairly solid week anyway.
There was one. I'd actually let me see if I can get it now. I forgot to cut it. I'm just going to add it quickly. I don't know if any of you boys noticed this, but saddo that I am. Whenever it was the first round, wasn't it? Colbert got dropped by Valenzuela. The cameraman thought that the fight was over, and he climbed into the ring next to Valenzuela. I don't know if anybody else noticed this.
I've never noticed that. No.
Whenever I've just cut it really quickly here. So that's him trying to climb back out again. Whenever they resumed hostilities, he's all of a sudden standing next to Valenzuela while Colbert's taking the count, obviously thinking that the refs called the fight off, and that's him there on camera.
He did do some stagger naughty before, didn't he?
Trying to scurry back out the ring as quick as he possibly could. I don't know if the fight gets ended. I know for the corner man or the promoter, obviously Eddie's the famous one, isn't he? Fought against Butte. But if the cameraman jumps in the ring, whether the fight gets switched off or not, but there you go. I thought that was quite funny there. He got out as quick as he could, the big fella anyway. But right,
Steve, sorry, I just thought of one more. So quite often when we have a big boxing event, you get a lot of these MMA people okay, right, well, I'm going to watch it, and then obviously when it turns out to be an absolute dour fucking shit show, they go, well, boxing needs to be more like UFC. Well, I put the UFC on this morning thinking, well, this is obviously a big fight. Everyone's talking about it. And I thought, the Edwards fight had finished not long before it. So I thought, I'll stick it on. What a shower of shit. I will never be watching UFC ever again. So that's marking it one down for UFC anyway, because it was pony.
One down for UFC. Anyone who says it's as good as boxing, they're wrong. Right. Sonny Edwards and Liam Freeman got nominated. DAZN and Dillian White got thrown in as well. We got Farage and Chisora. We We have the mascot as Boxer slowly dies. We have John Fury as his reputation slowly dies. We have Royal Boxing talking about Conor Benn against Haney. We've got Conor going in on Frank, later deleting. We've got Tony, leave him alone to be in OK Magazine. Be hello next week. We've got the Wii Boxing Championships. We've got Gervonta blanking Eddie. We've got Conor going in on Gervonta. We've got Clarissa Shields getting dropped and not taking it really well, actually, I thought. Not getting annoyed whatsoever by that whole situation. And then we have the rogue cameraman who got in the ring and for just about got out in time as to not ruin the fight. Who are you going for this week, Andy?
They've got to be the GOAT, pal. Got to be the GOAT.
The GOAT is getting the nomination from Andy. Matty, who are you going for?
I honestly have to go with Sonny Edwards at the basketball game. I thought that was fucking hilarious, personally. Like, who the fuck's this guy? All right,
I love to have seen that. Send that to me, actually. I love to have seen that, actually. I completely forgot they would have got it.
One for the GOAT, one for Sonny Edwards. Danny, who are you going for, please?
Nah, mate, it's the GOAT for me. That having a little video of her ranting, her hairline went back another 2 inches during those videos. It was brilliant. I mean, fuck me. Yeah, she was having a proper meltdown, so she deserves it this week.
Yeah, I completely agree, man. It's got to be the GOAT for me as well. The multiple weight world champion has accused Artur Amatovs of removing padding from his gloves. That's the only way he could possibly drop the iron-chinned GOAT that she is. She's the GOAT, not the GOAT. Just remember that. Stay in your lane, Clarissa. Don't mess about with the men. You are the Bellew of the Week winner for episode 553. And that is where we shall leave it. Let me bring up the super chatters quickly. David Palmer, he's been throwing money around like it's going out of business. Couple of tenors from David. Kaiser Cobra threw in a tenner as well. Chris Butler throwing in a fiver for us. We had a Patreon joiner. Who was it, Jake? No, not Jake. Jordan. Jordan Harrison over at patreon.com/boxing asylum. Thank you very much to you. Have a nice Christmas. Enjoy the time off. We're going to maybe do a post-fight pod for Inoue against Tapales. We'll wait and see. We're definitely, Matty, as long as, well, at the moment, we're going to hopefully do the round-by-round commentary from around 7 or so. I know you mentioned it earlier. Quick shout-out, quick plug for that, and we'll get it sorted during the week.
Yep, that sounds like a plan to me. Should be a good time. So everyone join us and escape from your family on Christmas Eve.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much, Matty. You have teed me up beautifully at 22:11 on this Sunday evening for the outro clip. Thank you to everybody in the chat for listening. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Tell YouTube that you love the Asylum. Just like Danny Young, who jumped on tonight, just like Des as well. Thanks to rapping Rob Kelly, who was on. Seems like a lifetime ago now. Matty DJ Leonardo was here as well. Andy Patterson. Me, Steve Wellings. We'll catch you all again. Same place. Not the same time. It'll be Saturday next week for our special 554 Day of Reckoning card out in Saudi with the heavyweights. And bye for now.
We'll never forget.
Golly, that's good happening.
Go to and move! We want to be honest, yeah?
Crying like a little bitch. I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum, you're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't. 7-year ain't. I will fucking smash. Fuck you.
I hope you fucking die.
Be safe.
I love Boxing Asylum. It's as simple as that.
Sports Social Podcast Network.